Yay.
Okay. I'm glad that wasn't me, because usually it is. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Ruidoso regular council meeting. It's July the 11th, 2023. It's 1 o'clock. If you would stand with me for, do we have an invocation today? I didn't.
I could do it.
Okay, we'll stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll have an invocation from the Mayor Pro Tem.
Our gracious God in heaven, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the moisture that has been coming, and let it continue, but also protect those that are in harm's way of any lightning, flooding, any disaster that results of lots of rain. We thank you for your presence here in this meeting to give us wisdom and understanding of conducting the business for the Village of Ruidoso. Bless everyone, our visitors, our people here, Father, especially the young ones and our elderly. Protect them, guide them, and bless them. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
If you remain standing for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, of the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you, everybody. Okay. Have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Councillor Eby? Here. Councillor Letterman?
Here.
Councillor Salas?
Here.
Councillor Coughlin?
Here.
Councillor Jackson?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Did you ask me? Did I say yes? Did I say here?
Mayor Crawford?
Here. Just checking.
Now you have a quorum.
I didn't hear it.
I was just always checking, I felt left out. I've been gone a few days, so I'm not sure where I'm at.
Mr. Mayor, your absence would be noted.
It would be, okay. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda for today, given the chair the ability to move around?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented with removal of item number 7 under regular items from agenda due to inaccuracies in the grant application, and also allow the chair to move items for discussion at will.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Councillor Jackson?
Aye.
Councillor Salas?
Aye.
Councillor Eby?
Aye.
Councillor Letterman?
Aye.
Councillor Coughlin?
Aye. All right, thank you, folks. We'll have some consent regular items, which I shall read. Number 1 is approval of governing body minutes, June 13th, 2023 regular meeting. Item number 2, approval of adoption of resolution 2023-20, a resolution amending the Village of Ruidoso personnel policy, glossary of terms, chapter 3, section 3-1-7, temporary employee, chapter 6, section 6 and 7, holidays. Item number 3, approval of reassignment of lease for land lease P9 from Stephen Fleming to Jason Heller. Item number 4, approval of grant agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the Village of Ruidoso and the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, Enhanced 911 Act Grant Program for the Village of Ruidoso and Mescalero Apache Reservation and E911 related reimbursements in the amount of $477,165.00. Item number 5, approval of intergovernmental grant agreement number 24-624-4000-0068 with the State of New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department for salaries and operational budget items for fiscal year 2023 through 2024 for the RSVP Retired and Senior Volunteer Program Community Center Coordinator in the amount of $36,050, no cents, including NMGRT. Item number 6, approval of final change of order with General Hydronics Utilities LLC for fault H 1979-S10 and Brown H 1497-S well improvements, contract number RUI 201-11 in the amount of $149,480.15. Item number 7, approval of agreement with Souder Miller and Associates through Cooperative Education Services, CES, for professional engineering services on Alto Reservoir improvements in the amount of $156,269.69, including New Mexico gross receipts tax. Item number 8, approval of request to schedule public hearing on August 8th, 2023 for a petition to rezone case number RZ 2023-169, 128 Randall Drive, Lot 16A, Block 6 of the Hamilton Terrace subdivision, Ruidoso, New Mexico. Item number 9, approval of request to schedule public hearing on August the 8th, 2023 for a petition to rezone case number RZ 2023-156, 197 Meander Drive, Lot 36B, Block 14 of the Palmer Gateway subdivision, Ruidoso, New Mexico. Item number 10, approval of request to schedule a public hearing for August the 8th, 2023 for proposed ordinance 2023-08, an ordinance for safe and anonymous surrender of infants, allowing persons to leave infants not more than 90 days of age and safety devices for surrender under certain conditions without criminal prosecution for abandonment or abuse of a child, allowing the installation and operation of safety devices for the surrender of infants. And that concludes the consent regular items, and I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, move approval of the consent items as listed and resuscitated.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other put in? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman. Aye. Counselor Eby.
Okay, we come to the public inputs, limited to the first hour of the meeting. We have, looks like 4 people on here today. So you come up and you get, the Mayor Pro Tem will give you a time limit, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So when he starts raising these fingers, that's what he's telling you. So first up is Jennifer Brewer.
Yeah,
Is it on?
no.
Now it
Is
is.
it green?
Yeah, now it is.
Now you're on.
Hello, and I'm here mostly to thank everybody. Apparently, the,
State your name and
oh, I'm sorry,
address.
Jennifer Brewer, 89 Rio Street. But apparently the speed limit has been changed to 15 on Rio Street. We have one little bitty sign, but I've heard that there are regulation, like signs ordered. And hopefully, I think for the bottom of Center Street and for both, facing both directions for east and west of Center. And Eagle, I believe, from, on Rio further down is already 15. And speed bumps are supposed to be installed at some point. That should help. But yesterday evening, we did have a family walking along Rio, and the man had to pull his kid out of the way, and he yelled, "Hey, slow down!" And the guy slammed on his brakes, and I got out my phone thinking, oh, this is going to be ugly. And the man started yelling, saying, "I was going 25, and then peeled out. And I thought, well, and I told the man, I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, it's, hopefully it's 15, hopefully it'll be, the signs will be posted soon and whatnot. And I just said, everybody's really friendly and apologized for the village. And, but so hopefully it'll all take place soon. But again, thank you all for I'm sure somebody, all of you helped push it through, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Bart Byers. Cage Rattler? Is that what you wrote down here, Cage Rattler?
Yeah. Again. I'm Barton Byers, live at 507 Mary Drive, and probably get Alberto and we'll just do this all at one time. This is in reference to one block on Mary Drive in between.
Thank you, sir.
Rio Arriba and Doniana. This whole process started off about 2.5 years ago when I had a septic issue, and then I went to the village manager hoping that we could possibly get sewer, and at that point, he basically assured us that we could do that, and then a few months later, they had the project to put in new sewer and redo the road and all on Mary and all the way on down took place, and at that point, they milled up Mary from one end to the other. Well, apparently, our block was not part of that project. And so consequently, for the past 2 years, we've been living on a dirt road ever since. I've made numerous attempts to address this situation. And one of the things that I put on there, that there are many water leaks that have occurred over the past several years, and so obviously the water line needs to be replaced. And I know that's been a holdup as far as repaving the street. I know Adam has done everything in his power many times, and I think because of limited resources and finance that he's been restricted from accomplishing his goal. But I'm coming to you guys now to try to shed a little more light and bring this to the top of the priority list. Over 2 years is ample time to address this situation and rectify it. I definitely would like to have sewer too. They did come in and put a trunk in since the street was tore up. The village did put a trunk for sewer. And I do own a piece of property that I have granted, verbally granted a easement across for that sewer line. It's just the needing to obtain and continue that on down to Meacham. But anyways, we would love to have a little assistance, and here again, just bring this to the top of the priority list. And my understanding is that there's a contract or something that has just been consummated, and so I'm hoping that will, it won't be too long before that takes place. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Bart.
Thanks, Bart. There's a little hum in the system, you hear it? Jolene Wynn?
My name is Jolene Wynn. I live at 207 Rio Arriba. My house is 2 blocks north of Mary, the street that they were discussing. My main concern is sewer. We were told almost 2.5 years ago that sewer would be in. I need to do work on my driveway, expensive work. I was waiting to do that until sewer came in so I wouldn't have to do it a second time, which I can't afford to do. And still, 2.5 years later, we know nothing. My husband passed away 2 years ago, thinking we were going to have sewer, and he was very happy. I'm there by myself now. My septic system does wonderful when I'm by myself. But I'm reluctant to invite company because it doesn't do well with a lot of people there. And I'm just concerned about, you know, it's right there. It's right at the corner of Mary and Rio Arriba. And it's a concern to the neighborhood. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Alberto?
I'm Alberto Robles, and I have lived on Mary Street for 39 years since we moved to Ruidoso. And of course, I have the same problem that has been described. And I own 3 homes on that segment of street, 2 of them investment property. And we have been, I have my business being affected by this situation on the income and all that, so I'm pretty concerned about what is going to happen. And what we want to happen is for the village to get this situation fixed and go back to the way we were with the paved street and all that. And we have been through 2 rain seasons and 2 winters, and when the rain comes, it's muddy, and when the snow comes, it's even muddiest. And for us and our guests and neighbors and all that, getting into the driveways in and out with all that mud ended up inside our homes, and this has been going for 2 years and has been pretty adverse in our everyday living.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Alberto.
Okay, that's it on the public input. So we'll take all that into consideration, see what we can get done. Okay, we'll now move on to mayoral reports and presentation of new employees and promotions. So we're really happy right now because we've had some positions open for a while. We've been really looking for the right folks, and I think that we found some of them. First off, we have out at the airport, the date hire was June 26, 23. Gary Lee Baker, he goes by Lee. Stand up, Lee. I saw you come in. There he is, everybody, that's Lee. Do you have anything you want to say to anybody?
I appreciate getting to come here and show what I can do with the airport. And looking forward to moving forward with Ruidoso and the airport. Moving into the future.
Well, we're glad to have you here. I know you've only been out there a short time, and a lot of work going on out there. So has the missus made it in yet? Back and forth, okay. Well, hopefully from Clovis.
Yes.
And that's, I just drove that. It wasn't pleasant, so I can see that. All right, well, we're glad to have you. We're really glad to have you. So, out at the airport, Lee. Mark Coker, multidiscipline inspector.
Yes, sir.
Hello, where'd you come from?
We moved over here in November from Amarillo.
Amarillo.
Yes, sir.
Oh, real close to the top of Texas, better known as Pampa, Texas. Yeah, that's where I'm from. That's where I just came from. So we're glad to have you. And so your date of hire was June 26th of 23 also. So we're very glad to have you. Do you have any questions of us? This is your chance.
No, I just thank y'all for the opportunity. 3 weeks there and I'm loving it.
Good.
Give me another time a lot more.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you. Thank you. He is a multi-discipline inspector. So would you like to come up here and tell us what that is exactly? I think I know, but before I embarrass myself anymore, I would like for you to just into the microphone so the people out there in Neverland could hear you.
Multidiscipline inspector is, my field is mechanical and plumbing.
Okay?
So new construction, making sure everything from heating and air and plumbing is put in correctly, up to code, safe for everybody, and nobody's gonna die.
Okay, so it's plumbing and the HVAC,
Yes, sir.
refrigeration and whatnot,
Yes,
okay?
sir.
That sounds great, because that's a department that we have that really takes a lot of, the builders and whatnot really depend on us for that, so
Yes, sir.
we appreciate you being here.
I love it. Thank
All
you.
right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know it was real close if Jerry was going to make it to this day. I'm talking about Parsons. The day we got a diesel mechanic, which I got to see him work firsthand last Thursday or Friday. Trying to remember. The truck broke down on Jack Little, and he was there and had it running in no time. Mark Coker? Nope. Troy Berman. Is Troy Berman, is he out working? Everybody's looking in empty seats. Are you Troy?
Oh, that's Joel, the last name on there.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I got my guys mixed up. Joel. Well, stand up, Bravo. Good Lord, that's the guy we've been looking for. I'm so excited to have you here. I couldn't wait to get you up here. So tell us where you came from and what you do.
I am from the Juarez, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I am living here 8 years ago.
Okay.
I am very, very happy working with us and this community.
Yes.
Yeah, I am happy.
Well, good. We're certainly happy to get you here, aren't we, Jerry?
Welcome
My boss
aboard.
is a great person.
He's a good person.
All right.
Man, you just ruined his image, didn't he, Jerry?
Welcome aboard.
Well, Joel, we're certainly happy to have you here. Now we'll go back. Is Troy here? You're Troy. Okay, Troy, I apologize. Troy Berman, heavy equipment operator in solid waste. We're glad to have you. Where'd you come from? Alamogordo. So do you have to drive in every day? Man, we're working on that. We're working hard to get some more houses built here. So, well, we're certainly glad to have you here. You bet. Thank you. Jimmy McCarty, maintenance worker, Parks and Rec. Jimmy, are you a local guy?
Yes, sir.
You been here a while?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, we're glad to have you here. So, and you've been here since, you just got started 6/19, so you're getting close to a month, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so, you know what you need to do if you can't get help over there? Don't leave and go to another department. Because that's what's been happening, I think. Yeah, and I know Adam's really wanting some people over there. Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
And then Jerry Parnell. Jerry, how are you doing, Jerry? Good, how are you? Good, and so you have been here since July the 3rd? Yes. So are you local, or you are local? You've been in town a while?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you. Hopefully you
And what's
enjoy
his
it.
job?
He is a heavy equipment operator.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
So, and you're in streets department, and those guys, they're glad to have you, I can assure you that. Josh, those guys are hardworking and heroes and all the stuff that these guys do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Then we have in the promotions department, Dusty Brothers, utility billing supervisor. There she
Yay.
is. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And so now you're the supervisor. How long have you been with us, Dusty? Almost 4 months. Well, it moves quick. So obviously you're making a good impression. So we're certainly thankful and glad you're here.
Welcome.
Marissa Olvera. Hello, Marissa. How are you? She is Youth Services Librarian.
Good for you.
And we appreciate you being here, and that's a big department. You guys do so much that half the public doesn't even understand it. So we appreciate what you do.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. So that's good because we've had some openings. We still have some, but we're always glad when we get to add to the staff and to the family.
Well, Marissa's one that worked for us at the Boys and Girls Club,
Mm-hmm.
and moving into the youth services, perfect for her. She's great with kids, so this is good.
Good. Awesome. I just now noticed Hooker wasn't here. Where's he at?
You just now noticed?
Well, I thought he was coming in late. I thought I saw him coming in. I didn't want to embarrass him. He's on vacation again?
Yeah.
He's retired, remember?
I don't know. Okay, presentation of employee and department of the quarter. Does anybody already know who the employee of the quarter is?
Yeah, it's in the memo.
I know that, but before that,
I read the agenda.
you did read it all before you got here?
And I blew it yesterday.
Oh, you said congratulations already?
I was talking to him, and they were on speaker, and I was like, hey, congratulations for your award. And T-Bone goes, what award? And then
So she kind of blew the surprise, huh?
And then Matt said, he didn't know. So
Well,
I'm
well-deserved, T-Bone. So come on up, we've got a little gift certificate
Yay.
for you, but your Department of the Quarter. And I was here as 2 terms as a counselor almost fully before I knew his name was David. Everybody knows you as T-Bone, but congratulations.
Thank you, Mr.
We appreciate it, everything that you do.
Yes.
You're a wonderful guy, and here's a little something for you. And Kathy,
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank
you want to say anything?
I've been here 45 years. No.
Seems like it, huh?
No, I really enjoy working for the village. It's, I can't say how much it's improved my life. Been here almost 28 years, and it's the best job I've ever had. And I love my job. I love who I work with, and you guys are great to work for, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you, T-Bone.
Thank you.
T-Bone.
Congratulations.
He always does a great job, smile on his face. You got to go to work, I know, buddy, but thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, Jerry.
Thank you. But I cleared them out.
And then we have Department of the Quarter winner. And this is what it says. The clerk's office is small but mighty. These ladies are always incredibly helpful to everyone and always have a positive attitude. They maintain professionalism daily in all that they do. They both have a heavy workload. Man, did y'all write this yourself? And work as a team to get it done. So congratulations, ladies. The clerk's office. So we have the deputy director, deputy village clerk, Yvonne Bartz, and then we have Jenny Turi. And then so you guys get to keep the bear in your office for a while, but congratulations.
Thank you.
You guys always do good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a great job.
Including all the IPRAs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
They almost lost the award when the agenda didn't look like it matched the
Yeah, I
online.
know. I was reading it. All right, thank you, guys. That was great. Okay, next is the one, the only, which I didn't recognize. He was out of place when he was in the front room. I should have brought you in. I don't know what I was thinking. This is on the village-wide Windstream broadband project, Johnny Montoya. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Members of the council, my name is Johnny Montoya. I'm the Vice President of Windstream Communications, Vice President of State Government Affairs. First of all, I want to thank the mayor, former Representative Zach Cook, and really the council in general for helping form this public-private partnership agreement.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, this is the only public-private partnership we have in the state of New Mexico. So it's really going to be a landmark once it's completed. The agreement calls for 8,000 locations within the village of Ruidoso to be overbuilt by fiber for connectivity purposes. So obviously, as the pandemic has proven, it's a need. It's a need for business. It's a need for healthcare. It's a need for educating our kids and really connecting with our families. So Windstream is proud to be part of that. I wanted to come in and just give a real brief update on where we stand with the project. The project has gone out for RFP, selecting a contractor. The RFP process is closed, and we have selected a company called Cascade to do the construction project. Engineering is complete. Engineering and planning is all complete. And as we know, some of these project engineering, planning, and permitting take the longest amount of time. And I'm happy to report that all three are moving along accordingly. So Cascade will begin the construction of the fiber project. We're excited about that. And they're a construction company that we've used for years and we work with in various states and all over the state of New Mexico.
So, Mr. Montoya, this is to get it into the residential areas, correct?
That is correct. The entire village of Ruidoso will be covered with fiber to the location. So it's 8,000 locations, so homes and businesses. That is correct. There is, I'll just full disclosure, in the planning and engineering process, there's one polygon or one area of Ruidoso that due to rock and construction issues, I've been working with Manager Sena, that is going to require a little bit more planning. It's up in the McBride Canyon area. There's 150 homes up there that digging and burying fiber is virtually either impossible or overly expensive. So what we'd like to do is get the mayor and the council's permission to work with the community, with the residents in that location, 150 homes, to see if it's possible to install some poles and maybe get some fiber on poles in that area. So that's really the only issue. We've had a couple of other polygons that with Manager Sena's help, we've been able to work that out. But out of the 8,000 homes, there's about 150 that we're still trying to figure out how we can construct the fiber in those locations. So it's going to be tough, rock, expensive, but we think that if we can work with the community to sell them on poles, it would make a big difference and make it much more cost effective.
So are you planning on putting all this fiber underground, or is it going to be on poles?
It'll be a combination of both.
Combination.
It'll be a combination of both. But in areas, obviously, where it's real rocky and it's virtually expensive or impossible to dig, it'll be aerial.
Okay. So do you have an agreement with P&M to use their poles?
That's correct. So we are estimating approximately 3,000 poles that we'll be using with P&M. We have a company that we use for engineering who has a weekly meeting with P&M. P&M requires or has a maximum of 300 pole permit requests in at one time is all they'll take. And we've maxed that out. They're approving them and we're moving forward with P&M. So about 3,000 poles.
Okay.
I would also report that so permitting, we have nothing with National Forest. There's no permits required there. We have no permits required with the State Land Office. So we will have to work with, obviously, Department of Transportation for some of their permitting work. And the district in this area has been very helpful. And that permitting process is moving along with DOT as well. So that's moving fine. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. When do you think that you'll start this project, and then how long after you start it will it take?
So the agreement is to have it all built by the end of the year. Correct.
2023?
This year. We are hoping to begin construction as soon as the contract is signed with our construction company to start the construction immediately. Once the permitting process and all the details take place, we'll start the process. With regards to test and turn up or getting customers connected, the goal is not to wait till we've got 8,000 locations connected and then flip a switch.
Right.
As we get areas or polygons deployed, we will gradually turn folks up and to get them turned on.
What's a polygon?
A polygon is just basically we have a central office that has equipment in it, and we build an area around it, basically a zone, and we call them polygons. So
Okay.
the area is broken into several polygons, and then we work each polygon independently. Neighborhood, more or less, kind of. So things are moving well. With regards to outreach, we've also started a great working relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. We've been on the radio show in the morning, letting the community know that this project is coming and how excited we are to be a part of it. Been very well received. We've also, we will start working even more aggressive with the Chamber to make sure we get the message out. And internally, we've started a program called Fiber Fast for this project. And with that, we'll put a timeline together. And 60 days before the construction is complete or a polygon is turned on or consumers are connected, we will start to outreach with those customers. So everything from phone calls to door hangers on their doors, information brochures. We'll be at events with tents set up, notifying customers of when they can expect to be turned up and how they can get registered for the service. So we will reach out to customers to make sure they are aware that fiber is in their area and they'll be ready to be connected.
Sounds good.
And
That's my update.
so the cost, and this is to the house with a router in the house.
That's correct.
Okay. And then what are the speeds on it again?
It's going to be gig service, so it'll be everything everybody
Up and
needs.
down?
Up and down.
Oh, wow.
Symmetrical. That's correct.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. I mean, it's only been as long as I've lived here,
God.
since I've been working.
Right now, I'm not going to say who I'm with. I'm with one of the two that provide, and I've tried both of them. Copper was horrible. I can't get any speeds out of it. I mean, this fiber has been long needed. There's so many people that are working from home, and now with technology, a lot of people are trying to stream TV and such. So this is going to be a huge thing for the village. That's really going to help a lot, and I'm glad that we're getting there. Now you're bringing fiber to the home.
That's correct.
When you go to connect the home, does it actually extend the fiber into the home?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're not going to have a drop down to copper again.
There'll be buried drops at the home, but it won't go to copper. It'll go directly to fiber.
Go to directly fiber. Perfect. Okay.
So this is a big deal. We're very, very excited about this deal.
Mr. Montoya.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more on the public-private partnership and the significance of it and the possible impact statewide in the future.
Yeah, sure, Counselor. So New Mexico is one of only 2 states in the country that has a caveat in the Constitution that does not allow for public and private partnership monies to be exchanged, right? However, this was ARPA funds, so this was federal funds, which means it was not subject to that caveat in the state constitution. So what we did is we sat down with the mayor and we put in Windstream money, the village put in funding, and that funding together will allow us to deploy this project. So that's the public-private partnership side of the agreement.
And then we put in some extra money to get it done quicker.
Correct.
I recall that.
Yep.
So because of the ARPA funds and the village cooperation and whatnot, that means it's less investment on the part of Windstream. Does that translate into lower fees to the end users over time?
I think it will. I think that when you have density, which Ruidoso, I mean, some people think Ruidoso is rural, but to us, there's density, and where there's density, you can make money.
Right.
So you know, it will fall in line with what we're offering in other areas of the state.
Okay.
I mean, I would say it would be in the neighborhood of $39 a month to $49 a month for gig service to your home.
Okay, so it won't be the $70 for 4 megabyte service anymore?
That's correct. It won't be that. I can
Well,
guarantee.
it sounds like I just got a raise.
Yeah.
I'm spending.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Holy cow.
Well, we appreciate it. I know it's been a long time coming. You've been working hard on it, getting it with the state. And I can remember way back in here many, many times ago when Becky Brooks, and there was a whole bunch of people here doing presentations with Windstream. Guys, it's been almost 20 years ago that we thought we were going to be talking about what we're doing today. And it's taken that long. So we appreciate it. And I didn't realize Windstream was so big. I was in the panhandle of Texas and saw Windstream Kinetic trucks everywhere.
We're in 17 states throughout the southern part of the country.
Yeah.
And just a shout out real quick, Mayor, to Manager Senna and Robin Parks. They have been at my side, sometimes calling me too much on weekends.
That's because we're asking questions.
Yeah. But shout out to them for really trying to keep us on task, and we appreciate their help.
Yeah, that's good.
So really, when you think about it, from the time that we contracted or agreed to this whole process to the end of this year, really hasn't been that long. That's what's surprising me, is that we're going to be completed, or we're planning to be completed by the end of this year. That's huge, especially when we're working on bridges that have been 14 years.
Well, if you remember, we did the main buildings, we did trunk lines and all that stuff, and that's been 2-3 years ago,
Yes.
4 years ago.
About
when we
2 years
started
ago.
that process.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, and when I do reach out to Johnny on a Friday night or a weekend when we have services down at one of our locations, he's quick to respond, as the mayor knows, and immediately it's taken care of.
We had the PD down,
Yes.
and you after one call, it was up in a few minutes.
It always happens on Friday afternoons around margarita time.
Yes, exactly.
He called me last Friday and said, hey, I'm just calling you before you call me, so appreciate that.
Okay, well, that's great.
I thought you were going to say, he says, well, let me look it up. Oh, sorry, my internet's down.
All right, well, Johnny, we appreciate you
Thank you,
coming
Mr.
down
Mayor.
all this
Thank you,
way and
Council.
letting us
Appreciate
know. So we're excited by the end of the year.
Yep, thank you.
It's
Appreciate it.
amazing. All right,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much. History of the Village of Ruidoso, and that is by none other than Judge Weatherman Potter.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. No one told me it was raining today, and I ran outside to put the dog gate up and got wet.
And you got wet, and that's how you found out it was raining?
But I was glad to get wet.
I don't believe that. Exactly.
I'm here today to give you a brief history, and when I say brief, we're talking about a 10-minute history that's going to cover a lot of area,
Okay.
and it covers a lot of segment. I've been fortunate over the years to know kind of where hidden gems are, where I'm able to obtain the information on the history of Ruidoso. There's one, small one, things like maps, like the map that we have out in the hallway out here that's dated the 1920s and 1930s, telephone directories, Ruidoso's water history, which I wrote most of this about, I don't know how many years ago. And I know some of these little charts look kind of strange to you, and they would to anyone that's looking at them. That's a timeline of the school history. But that's the total timeline of the school history and tells the whole story. Here's a map that shows the Mescalero, Apache, and Fort Stanton Indian Reservation when it was one and the same. And the Indian reservation portion of it was nothing but a corral, where when they were, General Carleton told them to round up the Indians in this country and the first Americans, that's where they were housed. So I have a lot of information like that. I have maps of the schools downtown. I did a project downtown a few years ago, about 3 years ago. If you'll recall, I think you might vaguely remember that because we have it on the GIS system here at City Hall. And what this is it's a map that it's a 4-block series of downtown existing buildings. And it tells what's there now and what was there during the 40s. So it's a pretty fun project. One of the things I was able to collect was the bell. You remember the bell that we gave
Yep.
to the school? And I think we're doing some work to maybe get that back. I have all of the census reports that I've been able to attain, and hopefully today you'll be able to see a clear history of who and how Ruidoso has developed. And we will use these segments of history. When I say segments of history, they're basically chapters, but they are, I would describe them as an awareness, because if you look out the window right now, if you look out and you look out at the trees and you look out the dirt and sand, whatever, the average person has no idea as what they're walking on or what the history of Ruidoso is about. But I've been going through this almost my lifetime of people asking me a lot of questions about history of Ruidoso. So we've developed the physical geology features, the people of the land, the political creation of social and local state, and the men and natural resources, and social and education, and a couple of depressions and war. And then basically one segment of it is on Paul Dowling, our creator, our founding father of Ruidoso. And then there's another segment in there that we're thankful to be able to have the information that hopefully you adopt today, just some of the history we have on the Wingfield family. That'll be a segment. And then the Village of Ruidoso Development, VOR. So I'm going to start with we're going to go back to 70 million years ago when this was, and I know the mayor likes all of this sort of stuff because he and I talk about this a lot. And during the and the reason I'm bringing this one up, and then I'm going to go through this and I'll say skip. And when I skip, I'm going to skip from 70 million to 32 million to 24,000 years and just timeline it down. So basically during the Pangea, when this was just a solid landmass here, during the Triassic period, the heat that was trapped under Pangea the Earth was trying to break it all apart, and it did break it apart. And when the landmass opened, then this 70 million years ago became a part of the Atlantic Seaway, where we are right here, right now, 70 million years ago. And the Triassic period, or the Cretaceous period, was about 145 million to 65 million years ago, and then down to the last 15 million years ago during the Cretaceous period, the Pacific tectonic plate off the Gulf of what's now California, and the subduction and the thrusting of the Rockies and the Colorado Plateau and the Sierra Blanca Range, where we live right here, became basically uplifted. And so what you see when you're walking around Ruidoso, and I hope you see this, and I hope you've seen it before, is the beautiful sandstone, the limestone as we have, and as well as the metamorphic formations such as the magma, quartz, basalt, rhyolite, andesite, bombs, agglomerites, granite. It's just fabulous geology here. We have probably the finest geology of anywhere I've ever read in the United States. The reason that being is 70 million years ago, this was the bottom of the ocean. And so you had all of these trilobites, basically, that just floated to the bottom of the ocean, and their formation that creates that's what created the, not the sandstone, but the limestone. And then the limestone, if you look at it, even right here in White Mountain, if you look at it, it's just embedded with all kind of little Cretaceous features in there. And that's some of the things we'll be able to show people. But anyway, the sandstone was the beaches. So when you see the sandstone in White Mountain in this area, and you look at it looks like waves that they're created. If you look at the sandstone, each one of those waves is millions of years. That's the 145 to 65 million year period. Then I'm going to skip to 32 million years ago, and you look at Sierra Blanca, that's a volcanic formation that erupted 32 million years ago. And it erupted for 12 million years. And during that time, that's when we see it just during that eruption, if you can imagine, it was just shooting magma out of it. It was shooting bombs that would on the way through it was very volatile, and through the sky, and as they would land, if you go up behind Grindstone and up in there, you can see some of them on the ground, and they cooled as they were coming down to hit the ground. And so we have all of these formations there. That's where anything that was heated and morphosized into a different rock other than the sandstone, the limestone, and those types of formations, we see that. And we have a lot here. We have smoky quartz, which is the most popular quartz in the United States right here in Lincoln County. Then I'm going to slip over here to about 24,000 years ago that was happening on Sierra Blanca. It was a southernmost glacial peak, and it has two moraines that outcrop on the ski area road. And one section of this that I've written is the roadside geology, and it reveals the formation of what we call the Ruidoso Fault. And the Ruidoso Fault begins south of Capitan Mountains and extends across the lower Bonita, Eagle Creek, and White Mountain too. It comes right straight across, and then it dives right below Grindstone. And out in below Alto, the depth, or what the offset of that slip is about 1,300 feet. So if you're looking at it, the slip in the fault, it's like this, 1,300 feet offset. So anyway, we have that. And we're going to be able to, if you drive, we're going to be able to take the two, the fault and the part of the outcroppings that you can see when you cross right over here in the middle of town, when you drive down on Country Club Drive and you come down and you cross the bridge, if you look straight east, that's an outcropping right there that you can see that.
On the back of that country club property that the village owns.
And that's roadside history right there that we'll write up, and we can take people on little tours or tell them, yeah, this will be information that hopefully will be in the museum, that we'll have educational or awareness segments of the information that we have to educate the people.
What do you mean by outcropping?
An outcropping? It's just, an outcropping is when you can see it and it's not covered by alluvial.
Oh, okay.
And that sort of thing. Then at the end of the, excuse me, then at the end of the glacial period, we're going to take you over on the east side of the state there where during the Paleo period, 12,000 years ago, that the Clovis man was discovered there, and we know that that was some of the first Americans in this part of the country. And then, of course, 8,500 years ago, the Folsom. We've also found up here in Nogal a little mastodon that was that they have identified, and I never did see the final research on that. So during that same period, at the end of that 12,000 year period, that you saw the people migrating south down through this area, conceivably they could have hunted up here in the mountains. They weren't just over on the plains. So we're going to skip another 6,000. You're going to jump down to 6,000 during the Archaic period, and during the Archaic period that we transcend into that Archaic period was when 300 to 1100 AD we had people that were here. The Mogollon, down about 700 years ago, the Mogollon culture was here, the Anasazi and the Hohokam, and the post-Archaic people of that period all wound up on the Rio Grande. That was there's 16 different pueblos along the Rio Grande. Reason they were there is because we had a drought in 1276 that virtually just wiped out everything. And that not only here in America, but in South America and everywhere. It was just a horrific thing. So then, and I'm going to jump again, we're going to go way far forward, and we're going to talk about the white people after the first Americans. And the first white people to enter this area here was Cabeza de Vaca, and he was part of the Narvaez expedition off of Galveston, and he and Estevan and Durantes and Maldonado spent 8 years walking from basically the Gulf of Mexico down around Galveston, and it took them 8 years to walk all the way because they were shipwrecked there in 1535, trying to discover America. And during that time, they lost 300 people off the ship, and there's only four survived. And there's been chronicles written about this, and when Estevan was the first black Moor to enter this country, and he entered it when they were walking in their chronicles that they had written. The two professors in Texas has picked up on this and found out that they came across the Pecos River and up through Mescalero and down Tularosa Canyon. So basically, Cabeza de Vaca came within about 20 miles of Ruidoso in 1535. And of course, in 1540, that opened up Coronado and a lot of expeditions by the King of Spain. And then from 1693 to 1821, we were under Spanish rule. And if anyone has ever read the Spanish history on New Mexico, and I just read it over and over and over because it is the most amazing thing in the world, because you read literally 200 years of Spanish rule here, and the king would replace the governors every 3 years. And so They weren't interested in this country. They were mostly interested in the gold, and they were interested in Santa Fe and up north. And then during 1821, Mexico won their independence from Spain. And so what had happened, Spain had interbred with the Indian culture enough where anyone who has any of the Mexican blood out of Mexico would know that if you're a mestizo, you're half and half, that you would know that you still have the Spanish connection, but you also have the Mexican connection, which is basically the Indians of Mexico. So that's how that all came about. So then Mexico finally got a rule of the Spanish ruling, and then we decided, we thought maybe that we owned this country, so we had the Mexican-American War, and the U.S. thought that they owned it. And during 1846, that happened when Texas was getting their independence, and there was a lot going on down there, so New Mexico. And by the way, New Mexico's only ever had one name, and that's New Mexico, and we were named by the Spanish. So in 1846, whenever we thought that we owned it, we had a battle with Mexico, and we pretty much defeated them enough to be able to control our own country up here, and signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo between Mexico and the United States, and Continental Congress paid them $10 million. And then that brought the first farmers that were already really basically here in 1848 down in the valley, down in the Hondo Valley. A lot of times when you read history, you read a lot about, yeah, this family was here first, or this family was here first. And it's pretty funny because Hispanic families are pretty quiet about all this. Well, they were there first, and they were there quite a while longer than anyone else. They came down from Abo, which is up by Albuquerque and up in those areas, but they had been here. They had been here a long time ago. They'd been here since the 1820s. And of course, they were interbred from the Spanish people, but they had just finally decided they didn't want to be under the rule of Spain. So in 1853, after or 1848, after Guadalupe Hidalgo agreement, then we got into the Gadsden Purchase with Mexico, and we bought from them for $10 million, 29,670 acres of land that was basically the southern part of Arizona, New Mexico, and into California, because that was the influence of the railroad on the Continental Congress to be able to get a route through there. And then in 1855, Fort Stanton was built to protect the settlers that had moved here in the 1840s. And then in 1862, Texas invaded New Mexico during the Civil War. We had two battles, the Battle of Val Verde, which is about 25 miles south of Socorro, and then the Battle of the Glorieta Pass, which is up by Raton and up in there. Now, when I go through this and I'm talking about this, I've literally written pages and a lot of history that a person will be able to pick up. You have to keep in mind, you'll be able to pick up a folder at the museum or something, or maybe buy something that's from us that's a little packet that's only X amount of pages long. Some of it could be 30 pages long, depends on what series we're in here. And we can use that also as a money raiser for the museum, printing that and selling this product. So anyway, during 1862, a lot of things happened. One thing was in 1862, we had like we said, the Civil War going on. And then Continental Congress they came up with the idea of manifest destiny, and they wanted people to go west, young men, go west, and there's 30 states that was involved in that. And you could file on 160 acres during that if you moved to the west and held it for 5 years and developed it. Then in 1862, the war ended, and Paul Dowling, he mustered out of the military at Fort Stanton, but Paul had been in the military all the way through the part of rebuilding Fort Stanton and coming here and was finally rose up through as a captain. And he and Kit Carson were two of the people that were really involved a lot with rounding up the Navajos and being responsible of putting them in Bosque Redondo, which was another mess. It was just, I won't go into what all the mess it was. You can read it one of these days when I get it published. But anyway, they built the fort back because the fort had been burned in 1862. And Paul became the fort trader at Fort Stanton when L.G. Murphy, who was also a captain in the military with Paul Dallin, and Dolan was also a military guy, but they got booted out of the fort because they were tied with the Santa Fe ring, and they were doing shenanigan deals, and so they booted them out. And so Paul was the fort trader at Fort Stanton for about 6 years, and then in 1868 he built a mill, and he supplied even some lumber during that time for the mill, and kind of helped that. But when he went to the mill and he built a mill in Ruidoso, as our founding father, he also owned a couple of few little business there, and he was selling. And I have to tell you, when you're a fort trader, you're like the guy that controls all of the commodities in this country. You're selling to the public, you're selling to the military, you're selling to everyone. And you're selling them booze, you're selling them meat, you're selling them flour, you're selling just all kinds of things. So he was in direct competition with Murphy, because Murphy went over to Fort Stanton and built their place over there, Murphy Dolan. So anyway, then in 1878, the railroad came in into Roswell, and it was established there. And then Tungsten was killed in 1878. There's something to remember here that Paul Dallin was killed in 1877, a year before Tunstall was killed. And there's obvious reasons because Paul Dallin was killed. I mean, he was in competition with his, like I just explained to you. So he was basically the first person that was killed during the Lincoln County War. That's not documented in history, but I'll tell you this, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out when you read the history of Paul Dallin. Then in 1884, Charlie Wingfield moved into Ruidoso, and he moved in with Dr. Lesnett had taken over the, and Lesnett was also a captain in the military with Paul Dallin and all these guys. So he had taken over the fort, and Lesnett had, whenever Paul Dallin got killed. And so after that, they continued to operate for about 10 years. And then Lord Cree bought the mill in 1893. And when he did that, Charlie moved up to his 360 acres that he had filed and built a house up here where the Wingfield House is now. And Charlie died in 1910, the house burned in 1914. But when we get into the history and you see the artifacts that they've been working on that goes in the museum, there's a most incredible amount of artifacts telling the history of Ruidoso's business, how it was created by the Wingfield family. And I mean, it is down to unbelievable how much money they made to put in the bank, how much money they spent. This is like on and on. So in 1900, the old mill, the only thing here that's documented during the 1900s was the old mill and the Wingfield House. And there might have been 2 or 3 little campsites. Population was about 300 people, or maybe 348 they had counted. But that also took in San Patricio, which San Patricio was, when I was looking at the records, San Patricio was also called Red Oso at that time. So from San Patricio up to the reservation line was San Patricio. So in 1908 was the year the first cars came to Red Oso. In 1910, there wasn't really a lot still going on up into that period, but in 1915, 3 houses were built in the Upper Canyon by Mrs. Medler, and they were only 2 other properties there. There was Medler and Wallace. Those properties were leased from Lord Cree at that time to build houses, and later on they were converted into purchases. But that's the land that's right against the reservation up there, and the 3 houses are still there. All the other ones that were built there were the Red Oso Cabin Owners Association. That's some of the first ones. Then in 1920, there was 300 people. And in 1920 and 21, we suffered a real bad depression right after World War I. And Red Oso had schools. If I go back to the school timeline here, the first schools built in this area started in 1888. And then I took it all the way up through 41. And of course, I know when the high school was built in 1958. But what happened during that time, we lost so many kids with the families. We only had 300 families, if you think of it, here in the 20s. And they lost so many that they had to close the school. And when they closed the school, you'll see I'm not going to get into the school history, but the school history, Stetson School was a very popular school. And what had happened during the school history, though, was that the first one was on the Coal Ranch, second one was at the racetrack, third one is at Hale School, then the Stetson School, and then Charlie Wingfield built one at the Warrior Stadium, and then Charlie built the Wingfield Schoolhouse in Schoolhouse Park. Then they discontinued the Schoolhouse Park and went back to Stetson. See, that's during that time when they had the Depression. And then Red Oso School, we're looking for one that might have been around Rio Street, and then it moved periodically from Southwest General Children's Home and then up to Wingfield, where our annex was, and then the old school gym there, where the rack is, that was built in the 30s. So then we have a map that shows in the 1920s to 25 that there's only about 47 structures in Red Oso. And then 1925, after Charlie had passed away in 1910, Ike and Lula built a house on the Wingfield house where the one had burned down, and they had a barbershop, store, skating rink, telephone company. Edith Boyce built the Navajo Lodge in 1923, and the Red Oso Lodge on up the canyon there. There's another gentleman, I can't recall his name right now, but I know his name. And then 1930s, there was 400 people here, and a Mr. Carter, even before shortly, but probably around 1925, 28, he's the one that developed the Red Oso Springs, where that downtown section is. And so then going down to about 1940, then everything went crazy. After World War II, it just became nutso in Red Oso. That's the way I describe it, because it was that we had gambling, we had Red Oso Downs Racetrack was built, Cree Meadows Golf Course was built, McCarty's White Mountain Development bought 6,000 acres from Cree for $18 an acre. So that created the beginning of our major development of subdivisions. But I will tell you this, I just told you this was 1940. If you go back to the Wingfield history in Red Oso, that's almost 50 years before this current development. And then 1925 when I picked it up. So you're going to see the significance of the Wingfield house in the history of Red Oso, and then by the artifacts that's been working on and everything, you're going to see that it's documented in depth. It's unbelievable, the documented depth that we have there. And in the 1950s, it expanded out on Highway 48, and we had big homes, and Casablanca was a home. All those were big homes. In the 60s, we had 1,557 people, 93% growth. We had businesses and development in White Mountain School. And then 1970s, more fill in. We had about 2,576 people, 42% increase. We had larger businesses during that time. And then the 1980s, we went crazy again with a building boom, and we went to 4,260 people, 92% growth. I was right in the middle of that. I was getting beat like a drum. In 1990, we had a negative impact on the growth. To stop the growth of Ruidoso, it grew 8%. In 1990, 2000, it's grown from about up to 7,698 people, 64%. So we're back on a growth period. So that's I hope I didn't take too long.
No, I mean, I love it. It's interesting, all the history that you tie into all the things. And I didn't know that San Patricio was Ruidoso and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's super interesting. And all that, and we do have a curator hired, I understand, for the library, for the museum, so that's exciting. Getting close on that.
It's really exciting. I'll tell you what, we're fortunate. We think it's a miracle. I mean, honestly, we do. Elizabeth and I and Susan's I haven't been involved in what they're doing, but that's why I can't talk about it too much, but I know they've been doing a bunch. But
Yeah.
I will tell you this on our history, even writing all this, when you hire a curator for a museum, she's the one that's going to tell you what she's going to allow, and she's going to, and I look forward to working with her. I'm not saying any of this might wind up in the museum, but hopefully, we'll try.
But that's what we want to do, is find out where we came from and, so that we know where we're at now and where we're going, so.
Yeah, we tried to do a lot of legwork for the curator
Yeah.
when we got one.
And Judge, that's, as the mayor stated, that's a lot of the information the mayor was asking for is so we can teach and put out the history of Ruidoso and Lincoln County. So, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. I appreciate it. It's great. And then we have an update on the EDA grant for the Special Event Center. And this one is Samantha.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Just here to update you all on the grant application for the EDA disaster earmarked funds. We have made progress with receiving back the environmental clearance from the New Mexico Historic Preservation Office, as well as multiple agencies throughout the state, that there will be no significant impact to the environment for that track G that's along Highway 70. We'll send the second round out to those that were non-responsive, but they're pretty minimal. Ron was going to contact Ruidoso Downs for me today to try to get those from that community. Our attorney has drafted up some documents that would demonstrate, if awarded the grant, we would have control of the property. We've sent that over to EDA for their legal team to review, and so we're waiting for input from them, and then our attorney can make those adjustments.
Excellent.
As needed. We have received letters of support from Jasper Riddle with Noisy Water Winery, WPS, and James Russ with Sierra Blanca Realty, ENMU Ruidoso, and the Board of County Commissioners. We have received conceptual plans from the track, and so we're able to demonstrate a floor plan as well as what an entrance would look like. So we're actively writing the grant. My hope is to have it submitted by July 25th.
And we're going after $17 million.
Total project cost of 14
or whatever, less
So-
our,
They would be supplying $13.6 million.
okay.
Okay, so how does the Village of Ruidoso go after a grant that's not in the Village of Ruidoso?
The property will be ours. The Miller Trust has agreed to sell the property, Track G, to the racetrack. The racetrack is then agreed to give it to the Village of Ruidoso to manage it, kind of like, it'll be similar to the convention center or the Links. We own the property, and then the money will go in to construct the event/evacuation center. That would be for equine events, concerts, you name it, 3,000 to 3,500 seating ability. And then we put out a long-term contract to manage it, like this is with All Hub, and then it would come back after 25 or 30 years, and then you'd have 5-year implements.
And then do we get the GRT?
We would, no, the city of Ruidoso Downs would get the GRT. The village would get an override between 1% and 2%. We're working on that amount. And then the operator would then operate the business.
And the grant requires 20%, and that can be a cash or in-kind or a combination of both. And so we're hoping we can get the majority of that match with the donation of the property. That's our goal.
And then the rest of it would have to be the operators investing like All Hub did here with building the golf course out.
And then the other component is the emergency evacuation center. Also could be staging for when the type 1 teams come into town. And we'd be able to house them there and make sure that it's sprinkled so they could also sleep there.
Okay.
So Mayor, when you say a 1% to 2% override, 1% to 2% of the GRT?
The 1% to 2% of the revenue generated, yes.
Okay.
Of the revenue.
Gross revenue.
And that's what we're looking at. Is it gross or is it going to be net? You know, and that's, we're looking at through other municipalities have had similar things.
Gross is so much easier to
Yeah.
manage.
And that's why it's probably 1%.
Yeah, well, 1% gross.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier.
So anyway, that's exciting stuff. I don't know if anybody's as excited as I am, because when we put in for these things with EDA on housing, on all the other stuff. Now, we have other things. So, Sam, I don't know if you've got approval yet now for the $2 million plus for the engineering to be done on the high T, which would be down at the Y, the traffic circle by McDonald's, that whole area down there, to do surveys on how do we improve the traffic and safety in that corridor. And then some other things on roads and bridges.
Upper Sudworth.
Upper Sudworth.
Yes.
That's my next presentation.
Yep, that's your next presentation. Am I jumping ahead?
No.
But anyway, I'm very happy that we've been able to get this far with all the coordination with all the other government agencies. That I think it would be a boon, because what it would do is offer us another venue that would be pretty much year round.
So the only question I've heard from people is during those high traffic times at the track, they use that as overflow parking. How would that impact the track?
That's a small issue compared to the rest of it, you know, because there's other land that's being looked at now to develop
things
that.
that they could use for that parking, or maybe
And that's,
figure out a way to use the land more efficiently.
yeah, because there's a lot of other land over there that, see, in Allsups, and I met with those folks, when they found out that we were doing this, they went ahead and purchased that land. And then November, they're having the vote on the liquor license. They're that confident that the city of Ruidoso Downs is moving forward in this fashion that they went ahead and purchased it. But it's going to be right there where the barbecue place was at, across from Walmart, on that end, all that land.
New restaurant that's having issues.
No, there's nothing over there, is there?
Yeah, the Corazon.
Where's over there?
She's been trying to get open for a few weeks.
Well, all the way back to the east there.
Oh, okay.
There's several different pieces of land that they've already purchased.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we're going to continue to reach out to Mayor Holman at the Downs and see, we want a letter of support, but it's been difficult to reach. So we'll try to reach out to Ally again and see what we can do.
They had,
Well, you think they'd be jumping at this?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
well, it's free money for them, and they initially had worked it out with us. And it does take a lot of work, like Sam's put a bunch, her department.
Yeah.
Ron's put a bunch of work. Every Friday morning at 10 o'clock, we do a presentation for EDA. We've gotten a lot of information together, agreements, all that stuff. The county's been very helpful. The county commissioners, I was surprised that you had that letter already. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I've talked to a couple of commissioners that are excited about it, but ENMU's already said they put in a vet tech program, veterinarian tech. it would be in conjunction with the rodeo team that they've put together, that they received a couple $100,000 on. The hospitality department, because there'd be a restaurant and stuff out there. So there's a lot of things we've been working together. In fact, that was the coveted letter that EDA wanted, was from ENMU. And so we've had Ryan Trosper over here several times. We've talked to some of their board of regents. So there's been a lot of groundwork done on this. And then that's what I'm saying. The other part, there's land over there. And then they'll be able to use the rest of that parking lot for the other events. But there's land back on both directions. They're even talking about tearing down the blue barn that's out there that they have now, tearing it down, take it apart and move it to the back of the property.
Okay.
And then this is a phase one. There's other phases that can be built onto this. We were able to work with plans of one that has been built very similar to this in Oklahoma.
The only drawbacks I can see for the towns is they would have to increase their police department and their fire department to service a center like that, but that's it. Other than that, I mean, we're doing all the work.
Yep.
Getting all the money.
One more time. So do we have to give 20%?
The land is given to us as
Right.
in kind that we donate on the property.
Okay. So
And that's
we don't, so we're not.
We're not going to be
no
putting
money.
any money in. What we're doing is we are going to be the, what's the word?
Facilitator.
Facilitator, whatever, of the 17 million.
The go-between.
We're championing this project
Yeah.
Okay.
for
So
the
we've-
region,
Okay.
basically.
Yes.
We'll be the grantee of the project.
Grantee, that's the word.
Yes. Okay.
So we're the ones that have been championing it, pushing it through, having
Right.
the meetings, talking to everybody that was saying, that'll never work.
Yeah.
And finally, we got a foothold when Trish Corbis liked the idea, and because it's about economic development. We shot, and there's still housing stuff maybe coming, but she shot us down, they shot us down, not she, but the board shot us down on housing development and all that stuff. But when we were talking about economic development, you know, they talk about job creation, and we're talking about, we got openings, we just need houses. But this one kind of does a little bit of both. And then there's other property that, since this project's cracked through the light of day, that we've been getting phone calls from investors, developers about other property. So this could be really, y'all mark my words, one day if we get this through, that it'll change that whole area downtown.
Well, it'll definitely benefit the entire region. I mean, it's not just the village. I mean, it's the entire county.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've had guys like Travis Tritt, you heard him?
Oh, yeah.
So, back in the 80s, 90s. Kind of like what they do in Missouri. You know, where the older folks, they had the, what's that called? Branson.
Branson.
Something similar style. We've had several of those in. Barrett Jackson doing a show here, smaller show. PBR events, 3 or 4 of them a year. And then look up Wickenburg, Arizona, what they do during the winter months. That's the headquarters of Equine, about being able to tie into that and having a year-round environment so that, you know, for the economy. I mean, those of us that have been here a while remember what it was like after Labor Day. And now then you see that you have more consistent business. So, anyway.
That's our last step that we're really working hard on this week. And next is to get those letters of support in. The tracks trained, you get those PBR and all of those big names saying that they would commit to coming to this facility to put their event on. And EDA wants to see local businesses state the impact it would have for them. And so I've been reaching out. So far, we've got the 5, but I'm continuing my efforts. Hotels would be a good one. It's just a lot to explain. Each call takes
Well,
probably
and they're
45
like,
minutes.
this is never going to happen because we've been talking about internet fiber for 20 years, almost 20 years.
Yeah,
But
really,
one thing
like,
about
It's
momentum,
only been the last couple of years that we've been talking about it, but the last couple of years we've been working on it, and now it's.
well, we worked on it before because a lot of us sat right here when Windstream did a presentation here and promised us, and I signed a 3-year contract along with 30 other businesses that we got bumpkiss out of, except for Screwed Around. So that's why we really beat these guys over the head for the first few years, and then worked with them through the association with Kinetic, and the Big Pooh Ball has done what he said he was going to do. Dan, huh? Was it Danny Ball? No, Danny Ferguson. Danny Ferguson has kept his word and done exactly what he said he was going to do. So we've gotten to this point. But one thing about momentum, when you got everybody pulling and pushing in the same direction, things happen. And that's what we've been telling our partners in the Downs and in the county for a long time. You know, we need to be on the same team. And so it's really looking good. And the event center's proposed, it's not a name picked out, but Lincoln County Coliseum.
Yeah, I like that.
Hey, you get Shania
What'd you want on it?
Just the Coliseum reminds me of Los Angeles.
Oh.
Coliseum there, or Vegas has the Coliseum, you know. No, the Coliseum, no.
Lincoln County Center,
Event Center.
Event Center.
Whatever, but not the Coliseum.
Maybe we'll do a
He's
flash
not gonna
vote.
be
Well, he's not even gonna be here. What do we care? Your veto, doesn't care.
So Sam, how soon do you anticipate that we'll hear?
August, we gotta know by then. We gotta have this all done, packaged with a bow, sent in by the end of August.
The end of this month is what they're hoping for.
Yeah, they want us to have it by July because they've put a place marker on this money. And what they've done is, other ones, they make you have the land already owned by the village.
Right.
Well, it's hard to get everybody to do all this, betting on a promise and a prayer. So they said, we will give you approved LOIs, letters of intent, to go through. And then once we go, then everybody buys.
Yeah. Okay, so when will we hear back from EDA whether it's granted?
I think we'll have an answer by the end of August.
Wow,
That's great.
that's great.
And then
And when are you leaving?
I'll probably still be here at the end of August.
Well.
Remember the name? 'Cause-
Well, it was just, we put it on there. We wanted Lincoln County representative of the region.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
So Coughlin's out. So, but anyway, I'm excited about it. Okay, on to presentation on the Ruidoso Upper Canyon streetscape improvements and gateway signage conceptual plan. This is another exciting thing.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue to the revitalization and investment that we've been seeing in our community. This plan was put together with a steering committee. We had 7 steering committee meetings. We were brought forth the ideas from several property owners that are up there in that area. And we hired On Groundwork Studio to create this plan for us. It's a conceptual design that seeks to create a more pedestrian-friendly street by improving pedestrian access via additional sidewalks, repair of existing sidewalks, ADA upgrades, and traffic calming. The road would be reduced from 4 lanes to approximately 15-foot wide each of 2 lanes, down to 12 feet wide. Additionally, a 5-foot wide bike lane would be provided in each direction for trail connectivity. Bump outs would provide opportunities for landscaping as well as water quality improvements. We're looking at green landscaping because we're a relatively dry area. We're looking at adding parallel parking along Sudworth Drive where feasible, and that add approximately 12 more spaces. Custom gateway signage that entice the visitors to go right at Sudworth and Meacham, and a roundabout redesign to provide a more logical pattern of circulation, and it'd be able to accommodate larger vehicles. The landscape in the roundabout would be developed with a consultant, and we'd weigh in with local stakeholders as well. The new street lighting would add for more pedestrian safety and access. We'd add outlets to those lights to provide for a holiday lighting experience, and also in the roundabout. So green stormwater infrastructure at the east end near the roundabout to intercept stormwater from D Street and other upstream sources to provide an opportunity for the matter and pollutants to settle and be filtered out before it's discharged into Rio Ruidoso. Excuse me. Replacing this insufficient existing stormwater infrastructure is important. We'd also work on Burrow Lane, and it'll be established as a one-way, as it currently is now, but we need
What road is that? Is that the one that runs behind Glenn's place?
Yes.
Yeah.
We would need to add proper signage, pavement markings, and other design interventions to make sure that it, and people understand it's a one-way. Cost to these improvements are between $3.5 million to $5.5 million. Next steps would be to engage a traffic engineer to develop a full set of plans and a drainage engineer to study the patterns. and make recommendations for stormwater management. And that is one of the grants that I'm currently working on with EDA. We have an ask in already. It was submitted last month for a total design amount of $868,000, and so our match would be $140,000 on that. But it would come with a complete plan set ready to bid.
Oh, wow.
We do have a striping plan in place because, as you all know, it's a free-for-all right now.
Right.
And he's coming this Thursday again to meet with us to finalize the plan. We met with the steering committee last week, and we had initial weigh-ins, but we're going to finalize that this Thursday.
Exciting.
Some paint down.
So Mayor, members of the council, I have Adam here also. He was on the striping plan. Just give a brief on that also, that what we want to be able to do. Right now, there's a lot of that striping's been faded since we had the project done last year with Cutler, so.
Yeah, so for the time being, Samantha's talking about the bump outs and stuff like that with the vegetation. For the time being, what we're gonna do is make it a 2-lane road with on-street parking and a center turn lane.
Okay.
And like Sam said, we did meet with the business owners up there, and they're all for it.
Oh, yeah.
They're excited about it.
Yeah, so we put together a little group of businesses and stakeholders right in that area that had some great ideas. And it's going to be fun getting that done. And already the improvements over there to that building.
Yes.
That she's been able to do, the rollover curbs, all the different things that you put in over there. The sidewalk, and with the acquisition of that Centrum property on the corner, one day we'll have access to the river for the public fish or whatever, and then it's maybe a gazebo or something for photo ops or whatever. But it's gonna be really nice, so.
It's getting there. It's turning out quick.
Yeah, it's exciting. Good work on all that. So, anybody else have any questions? Oh, we haven't named it.
No. The Upper Sutter Coliseum. In the pricing in here, are these just like somebody was drinking
Swagging.
numbers?
They're engineered estimates, but
Because a trash receptacle for $3,500, my God, I'll sell you one for $2,000.
but yes, they're estimates, and I think that they know that we don't have the funding to develop all of this, and so they're factoring in inflation.
You're right, okay. The only comment that I have, other than the pricing, is the example of proposed signage. The one says historical area, but it's a modern-looking sign. It's like it just doesn't work. If it's a historical area, then it should look kind of historical.
Man, we are gonna miss you.
It says historical.
You know what? Remember, I can dial in by Zoom and I'll be commenting.
You just have a big OX across the microphone.
Yeah. I'll take my laptop to the beach so you guys can see.
I don't want to see that. Well, and again, I guess that's a matter of taste on those.
I do agree with you.
I've got good taste.
Once we find funding, then we can work on a proper design, but that's what they threw in there conceptually, and we can.
And then, we don't want the fake, it looks like wood or whatever, the committee didn't go for that. Because they had that in there in one of them, where, it looked like wood and all that, they didn't go for that.
And what did they want?
Well, they liked these kind right here. They narrowed it down to these right here. And again, it's like let's just take the Wingfield House, for example. You pick a committee, and those are people that have spent hours looking at these things. So right now, like I said, it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
And then I don't know.
And Samantha, I think we're trying also to, with the wayfinding projects, we're trying to incorporate similar signage also that we're working on, so there's still a lot to be done.
Yes, Parks and Rec is working on signage, wayfinding, but it doesn't include this.
Where is that? Are we at on wayfinding?
Yeah,
I can
I
let
was
Matt come
thinking
up here.
about that because I'm on that committee.
Oh, you're coming up now?
That's all I have. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Mayor, council, good afternoon. So at the wayfinding project, we had a re-kickoff meeting a few weeks ago, kind of restart a committee. There were several committee members on the previous one that were no longer around the area. And so we've started a little bit of restart on that. I did send our design ideas to the DOT, and they're reviewing them now to see if they would even be a possibility with the locations and the designs we're looking at. And they have sent it out to their traffic engineers to see if that would be a possibility to put on the DOT right-of-ways. And so I'm waiting for a response back to them to see if that's a possibility, or if they're gonna make us stick with the blue, brown, and green signs that the DOT have standardized. When I talked with Curtis with DOT, he said it actually falls under a special signage section of their code, and he believes they'll be allowed, but he doesn't have the authority to make that call. And so he sent it to the people that do. I got yesterday they were asking, DOT sent back a request for the sizing of our signs. And so I got with Groundwork Studios to get estimated sizes and dimensions. And they sent me that yesterday, and I forwarded it on to Curtis this morning. And so he's sending that up the chain of command.
Okay, and what's his title?
Curtis is a traffic engineer, I believe, with the
He's a permit agent, traffic permit agent.
traffic permit agent.
Okay. All righty, because I thought we'd already been down that road. And so this will tie into RMA stuff.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Boards and commission appointments, there are none. I think we're full. Hallelujah. I mean, it's unbelievable community. We'll move on now to the village manager's report. You want to?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I'm going to start off, I think she's coming into the
She's been hanging out in the
council
lobby.
chambers. I'm going to have our first report's going to be an update from Team Tourism. That'll be the agency. Well, we're waiting on Kerry, Mayor, and members of the council. We do have the New Mexico Department of Transportation will be having their bi-monthly meeting here in Ruidoso, Inn of the Mountain Gods, but we'll have the business meeting here next Wednesday. So we'll be postponing and rescheduling the monthly JUB meeting in order to allow the Highway Commission to utilize the council chambers, so.
And we've met the new district manager, our director for us.
Yes,
He's
our
a
commissioner.
Local guy now.
Yes.
Lives in Ruidoso, so.
All right, Ms. Carey and Ms. Bay, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello.
Everybody? And don't worry, our report is nowhere near as long as what you have in your packet. Okay, everybody see that? Okay, Mayor and council members, we are here today to just give you a quick overview on like the year in review with regards to tourism. In '23, we had some key findings, which these were in your packets. And instead of reading these, I will just give you some of the highlights that our reach grew by 24% on Facebook, by 45% on Instagram, which those are both big steps in our reach. Our Facebook reach went to 6.3 million. And our Instagram went to 1.3 million. So those were some pretty significant jumps. And link clicks, the number of link clicks that we had, and that's like if we include a link in a post to send them either to the tourism website or to the Ruidoso page or something. We had almost 170,000 of those, which it's a good overall
indicator of how we're performing. The unique visitors to the municipal site went up by 18%, and this is the municipal website. And unique visitors to the tourism site increased by 120%. So I think a lot of that has to do with the content that we're constantly updating and adding to the websites.
Carrie, before you go on, you have that third bullet point, is the 65-plus age group, and then the 55 to 64 are the most paid clicks for the tourism site. But yet, we hear a lot about courting the younger families. So how does that relate to this being the largest population that's looking for information to come to Ruidoso?
When you look at this, obviously, because we've been doing Facebook for so much longer than any of the other channels, that's our biggest group, and that group is automatically dominated by like 45 plus. And so when you look at the growth that we've seen on Instagram, that's where you can really tell that we're pulling that younger group, because they all left Facebook because it's just us old people on there now, and they're all on Instagram. So that's kind of a good indicator.
Okay, so we don't have paid clicks on Instagram?
And those are, this is a lot of the advertising that we do. So we do a lot more Facebook advertising than we do on Instagram, because it's such a visual platform.
Right.
Everything you post is almost like running an ad.
Right. Okay.
So, does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I just surprised by those numbers.
And when you look overall, like even on Facebook, our younger groups used to be, they would barely register, and now they register pretty significantly. Like you're looking at 20%, 25% as you go through the 20s and 30s, but it's still the 45 and older that.
Yeah, I just hear a lot about what can we do for the families and the younger population that are coming, and yet this is, and maybe it's just how the numbers and percentages of a bigger pot. I'm going, wait a minute.
Yeah, but I think if you look at through everything, through like all the stuff that you guys have in the 90-page packet, you look at our Instagram trends way up across everything, and that's a very significant factor that we're reaching that group.
And the good thing is, generally in the older age group, they have more disposable income.
Exactly.
So,
which is why we've never wanted to shift completely away from that, but to bring the others along as well.
Right. Thank you.
On the tourism site, we continue to add new content on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. A lot of it is we'll have the same type of additions each month, like new itineraries, or we'll go in and update the restaurant articles, whatever. And then sometimes we just come up with something completely different, like slow travel, budgeting your travel, so that you're not just going for a week and blowing it out, but if you're doing budget travel. And those have really gotten a lot of traction across the sites as well. On the municipal site, improvements and additions we make throughout the year at the request of individual departments and also outside agencies, like the agency that we're currently working with that's doing all the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation. We put together a page that with them and Chief Kazaboski and Eric Queller to put that information out where people don't have to go dig for it, and that will continue to be a part of the site where that plan is always accessible. And we try to be as accommodating as we can when requests come through. The team is always working to enhance the user experience and make it easier for the village. And some examples of that are like the streamlined lodger's tax application, lodger's tax fund application that we just redid this year. When you guys did the facade improvement grants, We developed a form that, you know, people could go in and submit all their stuff online. So just trying to make it easier so people aren't having to print out, fill in PDFs and rescan it and get it back. So we just try to be a resource for the village on getting the information that they need. And we recently just this past week and a half or so, we did that with, I believe it's the employee evaluation form for Cheryl. So just always trying to, you know, improve it that way. August will mark the 2-year anniversary of the first publication of the Ruidoso Insider. Currently, to date now, we have sent out 160,000 copies of that to people in the community and to those who have specifically signed up to receive it. If you sign up to receive it, you may have a second home here, you may vacation here a lot, but you can sign up to receive it and we'll add you to the list. We send it via email, post it on the website, and we just hear constant comments, and as I know you guys do, about this is really the only source of local news about the village, and that people appreciate knowing what's going on in the village. So I think that's been a win for you guys.
We're still trying to push it off on ENMU to be a college newspaper, but they don't take the bait yet.
But we don't give up.
Yeah.
Our social followers, then this is just strictly on the tourism side of things. We met and exceeded our goal of social followers. The goal was to exceed 22's number by 15%, and we did that. And when we first launched our social channels, and approached them with a cohesive plan. So, I mean, we already had the Facebook page in place, but this was about 5 years ago when we had a very cohesive plan that we started going at it with. We talked about how wouldn't it be great to one day exceed the 100,000 follower mark. And combined, you can see that we're like almost 140,000. So that's kind of exciting when you look at those numbers, and it continues to grow. So, and Tim, does that, or Counselor Coughlin, does that show you the?
It does, but it still doesn't explain the paid clicks, because you're 35 to 44 and you're 45 to 54.
Because
that bigger than the
other. The paid clicks are on the advertising.
Yeah.
This isn't specific to advertising. These are just our users.
Those are just the users, right?
The followers.
What really amazes me there is your women more than double the men in both categories.
Yeah.
And it's just like.
And they kind of always do.
Really?
You're the oddity, man.
Get
The
off.
rest of us are on, wait a minute, I gotta answer that question. Oh, nobody else has responded in 5 seconds? Let me answer that question.
Mr. Mayor, Kerry, it didn't surprise me at all, because going to, and I don't even know if they exist anymore, but large shopping malls where you have retail, fully 2/3 or 80% are geared to women, not to men.
Right.
I mean, you have Cabela's, but that's going to stand alone.
Right.
And then if you look at these two, they mirror each other. They really do when you break them down.
Right.
Depending on the venue, it's the same. So I figured 2/3 women buying, purchasing, scheduling. I mean, they run the show.
That's right.
And have, I mean, for a long time. So
Say it
I
louder
just
for
thought
the
this was
people
a
in the back,
valid.
Counselor Jackson.
I'm sorry?
I said, say it louder for the people in the back, Counselor Jackson.
They do. They run the show.
Well, I won't repeat the relationship advice I'd heard. You always grab your wife, use your non-dominant hand to hold her dominant hand. That way you can pull her away from shopping. And if she tries to pull away, your dominant hand's ready to.
Whoa, I think we need
There
to
he
move
is,
on.
Mayor, you missed another good one.
I'm sure I'll have another opportunity.
But yeah, and you're right, and if you think about those of you who are on Facebook now, how many ads do you get served up?
Too many.
A lot. And so who's gonna shop online? It's more women than men.
And that's usually what you see in the pop-ups too.
Exactly.
Well, I'll go along with that, because just on the short-term rental, it'll always come up who made the reservation, and generally a good 2/3 of the women that make the reservation.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's usually more than that. You know, it's not uncommon to see it be more than that.
And they're the prize shoppers as well.
Right. Just an overview of the tourism website traffic, we had 1.4 million, which was 120% year over year. So that was good. And if you're wondering what that May spike is, on the far right, it is, stories that came out on cannabis and the number of cannabis retailers in different tourist towns, and because we were like number 4. And so I was looking at this and I thought, what in the world is that spike for? And you'll see it like in as we go further in the media results and everything. So those stories just generated a lot of press. So that's what that is, in case anyone was wondering. For the municipal website, we had an 18% increase compared to the previous year. We had 216,000 unique visitors. And
What is a unique visitor?
like, you know how you can go visit a website multiple times, like during a day if you're trying to make a decision?
Okay.
It's, within a certain period. It doesn't matter if you go 16 times, they're going to count you once as a
Okay.
unique visit, so.
Okay.
Unless you clear your cookies.
Right.
That's how you can do those multiple voting things where it's limited to one time a day. Clear your cookies, go back and vote again. Just saying. There's a way around everything.
On that happy note,
On that cookie note.
And this is just both of them melded together, the tourism and municipality social sites, and it's Twitter, it's everything. It's all the things that we have. And that just gives you kind of an overview. You're looking at over 2 million engagements, 45,000 impressions. So it just gives you, we put this in there to give you kind of that bigger overview. Media coverage. This I always think is interesting just because it kind of gives you a idea of, this is media that we don't pay for. We don't pay one dime for. And so you can, on the total mentions that we had, which is the yellow graph, over 4,500 mentions of, we put in specific keywords. And I did learn that there's a famous chef in the world named Lynn Crawford.
Yep.
Because one day our numbers went through the roof and I was like, what happened? What did I miss? And I got on there and it was all Lynn Crawford. I'm like, I didn't know this about him, but then I dug down and I was able to filter all that out, but there you go. So that is a very good number. On the reach, which is the middle graph, that shows you our unique visitors per month, which kind of back to your question, now that news outlets, almost all of them have online presence too. So they don't just count that it went out on their broadcast, they count if they put the story up on their social channels, if they put it on their website, and that's where you get the unique visitors. And so you look at that and it was 2.2 billion in a year that saw stuff about Ruidoso. And the reach was, and that's based on like the broadcast and stuff that is not online, and that's 30.5 million. So that last graph shows you, and there again, you see that big green spike in about the cannabis article.
Oh my gosh.
So we had, according to this, 956,667 in media that we did not buy.
And this was
So
this last May.
this was this last fiscal year. This is the whole year.
But that's last May.
Last what?
This last May was in the last fiscal year.
Yes, sorry.
So it had anything to do with the adventure tours, the the racetrack kicking off or
No,
anything?
the story, the title of the story was the top either 5 or 10
Wow.
cannabis tourism towns in the state But what happened is it got picked up nationwide. So that's why it gives you that big, and Ruidoso was number 4.
Sorry, Mayor.
No, I was just curious, because now then, we can't count on that anymore, because we're like number 25, or, we're nowhere in the top.
Oh, wow.
Well, but these were tourist towns.
Yeah.
They like made their own, they kind of built their own story than the news
But
station.
we were in the top 4 to begin with, but now you got Clovis, you got Sunland Park, you got all these border towns that are, which is perfectly fine with me,
Well, and that's why that graph is in green.
because it's cannabis.
But that is just an important number, because I know you guys approve all the budgets and everything, so you know that last year, our ad spend, what we actually spent was just under $1 million, or right at $1 million. And so this is like an additional, additional $1 million in exposure that Ruidoso gets.
And just to be clear, because a lot of people think that all these cannabis stores are our problem, we don't approve them. We can't.
Right.
We have very limited that we can do when those come. Those are all licensed by the state, and we're slammed with them. So people complain, I hear it all the time, why do you guys keep allowing all these in? We don't.
Right.
But the market's getting ready to bow some of them out.
Yeah, that was.
Because now we're down from 800,000 a month in total revenue, 4,000 to the village, to, what was it last time?
So we were getting about 32,000
Yeah.
in the distribution, now it's down to 25.
Oh.
Okay, so it's coming down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The next part on the media coverage is just the sentiment, which you never want that red part of that circle to be much bigger than that. Where we live, we're always going to fight some negative, because like if we have a fire or a natural disaster, that's counted as negative sentiment.
Right.
So we're still good. And that's really all that points out.
What is the blue?
The blue is neutral, which is good. Neutral and positive are great.
Okay.
But the positive is better than the
Yes.
negative, so
Yeah.
that's good too.
Exactly. Okay, so any questions on that so far? Okay, we're gonna do a quick recap of each quarter. We started with the most immersive New Mexico Tourism Department co-op program that we've ever participated in this past fiscal year. And our overall impressions increased by 18%. So those are our overall ad impressions. And so that, to me, that shows that it works for us. It works for us to have that program as part of our plan. And, I mean, I think we all feel, and when I say we, I think you guys too, that it has worked in a very positive manner for the village, and also with the relationship, excuse me, that we've been able to build with the tourism department.
What other towns in New Mexico, mountain towns, were named one of most charming? Sounds like a pretty small
It was
competitive brand.
Taos, Red River, but there were all kinds of stipulations that they put in there, like, Red River, charming, but super small. You don't have access to a lot. Taos, great, but it's expensive, and so they put everything kind of through the ringer.
And we expect this to really go up this next year because of the increase with the co-op program and all the other things that's been done.
Don't skip ahead, Mayor.
Oh, are we already, you said that, don't worry, it's not going to take nearly as long as your presentation.
Well, what was the but about Ruidoso? Because you said there was Angel Fire, there's a but, and Taos, there's a but. What was the but for Ruidoso?
Nothing. That's why we were named as one of them, we were actually higher than those, because you had access to things, but you didn't have, it wasn't super high cost, it wasn't, no restaurants, no grocery stores, so.
And on Facebook, you usually respond in 2 minutes or less, and that was a big plus, too. The ones that never answer, that wasn't you.
This is just a look at our impressions over that first quarter. They were up 18%. Here's some quick examples of the just the creative that we did, the out-of-home print, email. And I just want to point out again, I know all of you guys are pros in here, but our New Mexico True ads always look a little different because we're required to use our logo with the True lockup. So that's why you'll see as we skip through these quarters, you'll see that advertising looks a little different. Okay, the events that we had, these were the Q1 events, and Bay is she's the analytical event queen here, so I'm gonna turn it over to her to talk about the first Ride Ruidoso that we did. So this is the one last May. So, I mean,
last year.
September.
Yep.
In 22. Okay. So that's this one, correct. I'm just gonna read from this. Yeah. The heat map up. Okay, so the heat map here showing in red, the little green that's within the red dot is Midtown and Wingfield. So you'll see a nice concentration around that area and then spreading out across up into the convention center. And then obviously out past that. And what that shows is that like if on a weekend where we don't have an event going on, you're not gonna have your red hot spots might be very tiny, maybe just in Midtown. But when you have one like this, that demonstrates that there's a greater density of people in town overall that are.
And that was Ride Ruidoso.
That was September last year, the very first one that we did. And so for that event, we saw a majority of the visitors were from New Mexico, with about 60%, and 28% were from Texas, and then they kind of.
Does that surprise you? Most of them are from Albuquerque?
Well, Albuquerque is the DMA, and so that's a lot of, like, that's where they get their source of information.
I'm jumping ahead, I guess.
Yes, you are.
Sorry.
But it's the zip code breakdown that we had, they were a lot from Las Cruces, and we had some that were above I-40, but most were south of Albuquerque. And so as to be expected, peak day over that weekend was Saturday, with shoulder days being Friday and Sunday. And obviously a nice incline starting on Thursday. So really started to see people come in on Thursday and then peak on Saturday. Peak time for the event was 11, which was interesting, and then another spike at 4 when people came in for the main event, the Los Lonely Boys.
Yeah.
And the highest groups of visitors were True Grit Americans, which are the middle-aged, lower to middle-class households, and the booming and consuming. And those are groups that we see across most of the events that we do as being particularly prevalent, yeah. And then we included for you this economic impact calculator. This is a tool that was provided to us by the New Mexico Tourism Department. The blue boxes are filled in by us, and the tool gives us the total direct economic impact and the total outside economic impact. It also removes ticket sales so that you can see the economic impact to the community minus the ticket sales. So, i.e., like you can see what the ticket sales are, but then you can also see what it brought as far as lodging, restaurants, shopping, retail. And this is, we put this tool into use this year with not only our events, but every event that applied for lodger's tax. We put their numbers in here so that the lodger's tax committee would have a tangible piece of information that they could look at to see like, whoa, this is, instead of just, oh, we think this would be a great event.
Right.
They can look and see what the economic impact to the community is. And it, it just allows, I think they all felt it. It allows for decisions to be made with more knowledge at hand.
And so the demographic on age is, like you said, the middle age to older.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah. Any questions on that? Okay, Q2, quick recap. We obviously started highlighting winter activities. Engagements went up by 60%, which is normal because usually within this time we get our first snowfall, and it always causes a big spike. And so that, you know, there was nothing surprising here. You can see on this, the spike is the first snowfall, so you can see the kind of impact that it has across tourism and the municipal channels alike. Examples of advertising we did in the second quarter. The events that we had in the second quarter, and they're always, our Q2 events are always kind of an ode to the locals, I feel like, because that's when we, you know, do the Halloween stuff, the turkey trot, the Aspen Fest parades that the chamber does, all of that, so, and the drone show. So I think that, you know, that's always a nice thing for the community.
Yeah.
Q3, we started advertising for spring break travel, conducted, as you guys know, the strategic planning workshops and branding exercises for the development of the marketing plan. We developed and delivered the strategic marketing plan during that time. We also surveyed the community with the Best of Ruidoso People's Choice Awards, and people had fun with that, and all the winners of that, you know, really appreciate. We gave them a framed certificate and also window clings that they could put, and I see them around town, so it's great that they're using them. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is we participated in the Scenic Southern New Mexico Photo Contest, which was a joint project with Las Cruces, TRC, Elephant Butte, Silver City, Deming, and Ruidoso. And so it just encouraged people to submit pictures when they were at any of those places. And then the group of participants that I told you about, we have access to those pictures to use if we want to use them for anything. And then anyone who submitted was eligible for different drawings that they did throughout the contest period, which was, you know, a weekend up in Ruidoso, a weekend at Elephant Butte, various things like that. So it was and I think it speaks to, you know, one of the things that we identified that we want to do is work with our regional partners more.
That's a great picture.
Here's some of the advertising. In Q3, we did put the Tucson Transit wraps back in the mix, and those always perform. That's the bottom one, and those always perform really well for us. We also start promoting during Q3 for a lot of the upcoming events. And so that we start for the Ride Ruidoso Spring Thunder, all the first few running events, the outdoor expo, the disc golf. And then in Q4, we submitted it's called MMP and Flex application, and that's for the New Mexico Tourism Co-op program. And we also hosted a FAM tour in which many of the local attractions and amenities participated, and many have already received great mentions. Bay and I were talking to one of the journalists today, and so far she's got 6 stories that she's pitched on the area that have all been approved. And so we're working with her, and she was one of the ones out of Southern California. And so that's great because that's an area, like a experimental area that, you know, we want to look at advertising in. And so the first one that's coming out will be, it's an exclusive high-end magazine in LA called Enclave, and she's going to do a story. It's going to focus on Michael Hurd, but, you know, talk about the surrounding areas and all that there is to do. So we'll keep you posted on that. And I know, you know, we put in the budget this next year to have more FAM tour type visits, and so I think that just demonstrates how that was literally a month ago, less than a month ago, and we're already seeing, a lot of positive from that. Here's a quick look at our advertising that we were doing during Q4. And then obviously we had two big events in Q4. So we had the Spring Thunder Party in the Pines weekend, and so Bay's going to give you some breakdowns from the analytics on that.
So here again, looking at the heat map and that nice kind of continuation of the red. And we saw 60-40 New Mexico, Texas visitors. Friday and Saturday were almost equal visitation, with then a major dip on Sunday. The activity to the area started to build around 11 with peak hours at 1, and then and then it kind of significantly dropped off by 6 p.m. And here again, 65 plus was the peak age, with the shoulder groups being 45 to 54 and 55 to 64. So 45 to 64, I guess, is how it's better said. Okay.
And all your
For that.
Okay. Yep. And then here's the economic impact calendar for that, which you guys also have in your packets as well. The next was the Party in the Pines. And so Bay will talk about that as well. And you can see a little bit of difference in the heat map there, that because racing is in season.
Yeah.
You see that red pulled over towards the racetrack as well.
So for this event, almost equal visitors, New Mexico and Texas. New Mexico 46% and Texas 43%, so that was an interesting shift from the previous two events that we spoke about. Peak ages we had some younger peak age groups, so 25 to 35, the 65 plus, and then 36 to 64 were the shouldering age groups. Booming and consuming and life of leisure were the biggest segmentations for those events. And for that event. Let's see here. Peak hours of visitation were 11 to 1, with growth starting at 10 a.m. and then significantly dropping off by 5, with all activity ending around 8. Saturday, of course, the peak day with attendance, and Friday and Sunday being the shoulder days, with almost equal numbers on those 2 days.
And there's the economic impact calendar you can see there.
How do you get the heat?
Cell phones.
It's cell phones. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
density of cell phones that are in any spot.
Okay.
So like all the village employees, we get to count them twice because most of them carry 2 cell phones.
Nice.
Only the important ones.
Yeah. Yeah, only the,
Big brother.
But that's how they do it. That's how they
Okay.
determine the density.
okay.
And even if you turn it off, even if you turn off
They will
your
find you.
"don't track me," they still find you.
That's amazing.
The Tattoo Expo, we just wanted to include it because we do, even though it's not a village-sponsored event, it's part of the umbrella of that weekend. And so we advertise it in sync with everything that's going on that weekend. And I think, we've all talked about before, those guys are killing it and doing a great job. And so we just wanted to include their heat map and the economic impact that brings to the village.
How can you separate their economic impact from the other activities going on that same weekend?
It's kind of difficult if but you have their attendance numbers.
Okay.
And then you have our attendance numbers, so it comes out, and yes, a lot of them are repeat, but they've purchased tickets, so they
Yeah.
can be counted twice. Where you get into more of the weeds would be like on the lodging and the personal spend per day and everything. So that's why, you kind of, these are not to the T, but it just gives you an overall tool that you can kind of use to say, and I think as you have seen on some of the numbers, some of the events perform well and others are lesser than,
Right.
so.
Some events may be the primary purpose, they're here, and then
Right.
the others are secondary, which don't necessarily add that much economic impact, but
Right.
the idea of having two events that people can come to and do both is a better draw.
Right.
Then I don't want to go up there just for this one thing.
Well, we did talk to a few people that we had seen that they were up here to go to the tattoo convention. They sold 2,000 tickets, and we sold a little less than that over there with a higher ticket value, but they weren't sure where they were going to go,
Right.
but they picked this one because of the addition.
Right.
And they had a hotel room for 3 nights
Yeah, yeah.
and had bought a lot of different things. So, you take that, and I don't think that was the exception at all. I think that there's more of a rule that people are coming because they know they can have fun doing whatever.
Well, and I also think, again, back to, when you look at the heat map for the tattoo convention and Party in the Pines, and you see that spillover into the Downs, which is obviously the racetrack, last year, the racetrack had an event that we included in Party in the Pines. It was like the Pro-Am boxing.
Yeah, something.
And so we also advertised that. So really, there were like 3 different things that they could do. And the track didn't have anything that weekend this year. But they still benefited, from having more people in town.
But you're right, it's something, the Tattoo Expo started, small little first-time deal, and it's grown exponentially since then. It's amazing the drop.
Well, and the people running it are much better than the ones we had the first year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those people from California and they were hard to deal with. And then the locals picked it up, and man, they've done unbelievable with it.
In some of the things you'll see in FY '24, we're gonna do a complete redesign of the municipal website. And so, I'm gonna be working with Ron and the directors on, that as we move through the next 6 months. The New Mexico Tourism Co-op Marketing Program, we got great news with that, which I'll hit on the next slide. And, the rollout of the strategic marketing plan officially started July 1, even though we've been doing things between April 1st and July 1. But that officially, becomes our comprehensive plan. And then new influencers that we'll be bringing in to visit Ruidoso. We did get our results on what we are going to get, and from the New Mexico Tourism Department, we were awarded $620,000+. Of that amount, New Mexico Tourism directly pays $413,000 in advertising efforts, and the village commits to pay about $200,000. So you can see, how that works. And then we got awarded our $33,000 in the Flex Fund, which is all the way at the bottom. And, that allows us to use the program for things that may not be included in their menu of offerings. So we put the street wraps in there, and that got approved. So when you add this to our $500,000 program spend, that couples the buys to be about $1.12 million worth of advertising that we will be able to put out on behalf of the village. Sorry, we were long-winded, Mayor. Do you
No,
have
that's
any
all right.
questions?
Yeah, Carrie, so in this program right here, what we talked about a couple of months ago at the New Mexico United game in August, some of this funding is getting us on the,
Actually, it's because we're participants of this, we're getting that for free. The New
and that, I
Mexico
remember you
United.
saying
Yeah.
that
And so it's, I think, gosh, I can't remember the date off the top of my head. It's
August 26th,
August
because
26th.
we're getting, and I would tell all y'all, if you haven't been to a New Mexico United game, you ought to go.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
And you, Counselor Salas and I had talked about looking into doing a more extensive partnership with the New Mexico United, like Taos did recently, where they basically were all over every part of the stadium during an entire game. This that we're getting through the co-op program, I think it's like 12 minutes throughout the game. We're going to be, all over their boards and everything. But it's a quite a dedicated group, and Taos people were thrilled with the results they got from their sponsorship of that one game. So we are going to look into that, and it may not be something that can be funded this year, but if it's something that we all like, we can plan for it for the next year.
That's what I was thinking on that for the next year or what, because it was, I noticed that. I went to that game where everything was Taos. Visit Taos, that was it.
Yeah.
T-shirts and everything that they had going there. The other thing that I wanted to bring up again was the solar eclipse event. Make sure that we advertise that, come up higher in elevation, visit Ruidoso for the eclipse. That's in April of 24. And it goes right over our state.
Yeah.
Or we get 6 minutes of darkness in the morning.
Right.
So
Right.
that would be interesting.
Yep. So we
That's
have
all
that.
I have, Mayor.
Yeah,
And we didn't do any billboards?
so we did.
We did?
They're out of home on all those.
Out of home?
Yes, those are billboards. So we had billboards for the entire year in El Paso and Albuquerque. And then we had various buys throughout the year in Houston, San Antonio. I think that's all. And then we're putting back in the plan this year, we're doing the temperature triggered boards throughout the summer where when it hits 90 in El Paso or West Texas, the boards show the temperature here, which this week would have been rough. But
another time it's like.
yeah.
Well,
but-
they've had triple digit for what, over 20 or 30 days?
So when, on the media buy for FY24, it says New Mexico Magazine, but it's not highlighted in yellow?
That means that's a separate buy outside of anything highlighted in yellow is part of we're getting as part of the co-op buy, the co-op program.
So the ones in blue we're buying.
We're doing media buys on, correct?
What do we get out of the Ski New Mexico guide?
It's basically a membership that we pay. I think, I want to say it's like $800 a year, and we've always done it as more as a PR type of thing, because if we're not members of Ski New Mexico, we'd be the only ski area in New Mexico that wasn't. And so it would have nothing in there about, because
Ski Apache wouldn't do it?
not,
Well, there go my sentiment right there, talk about sentiments.
Salmon or cynicism?
Yeah, cynicism was an accurate depiction. Okay. I was just curious, because most of the time that's where a lot of our negative press comes in. Okay?
Yep, and I mean, we can certainly, if the council and the mayor wish us to take a look at it, we can look at, but, like George, the guy who runs it, he was with the New Mexico Tourism Department for years, and so, he kind of.
Yeah.
I hate for us to cut our nose off to spite our face.
Well, how do you do that? It's like, don't come to Ruidoso skiing, we don't get all the complaints.
Well,
I get them, tons, and they do nothing about them. So that's neither here nor there. That's why we're working on other areas. Winter Park, the other things. That's all good stuff, and I'm excited that we got that much money for,
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
yes, it is.
And then
they
hopefully,
They had significantly more applicants this year, like in when they first rolled it out, I think they had, maybe 3 or 4 that were participating, and it was places like Red River that couldn't afford to have their own internal marketing person or hire out, and so they started as some of the first participants. And then, we held out because at first you couldn't use, they wouldn't let us use our logo at all. And we felt we had a lot of identity tied up in that and to just not use it. So then they made the change going into last year that you could use your logo.
Yeah.
And so once they did that, I mean, it opened up and there were, I think they had like 30 some odd municipalities apply compared to just 4 years ago, it was like 4.
Well, and what's her name, the secretary?
Jen Schreier.
Schreier, she really listens, and her people do. They respond because I remember having that discussion. We've spent literally tons of money, a lot of collaboration in the village to get our logo brand awareness when y'all weren't doing nothing.
Right.
And we're not going to just sign back
Right.
up. You know, it's like going back with Green Tree, you know, after they, so.
Well, and it was, the holdouts, the last people to come into it were Ruidoso, Santa Fe, Taos, and
Yep.
Albuquerque.
The big ones,
because
yeah.
They all 4 had their own identities. And so I think that kind of was an indication to New Mexico Tourism Department that, hey, maybe we should take a look at why these main destinations are not participating. And so, we did, and as you guys have seen, it's been a great program for us and been very beneficial.
Yep. I'll be interesting to see the results after the drone show.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of that go around. I think that was a huge success.
Gosh, have you seen a lot of communities are
Yes.
starting to do the
Yep.
drones instead of
I
fireworks.
think that's pretty good.
There's a packed parking lot.
Yeah, we need to make sure we get them booked up for next time. Okay, very good. Thank you, ladies. Okay, Ron.
Thank you, Carrie and Bay.
Thank you.
Miss Deborah, she's going to give us a update from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here, Deborah.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I just have a.
I was glad to hear that Windstream was collaborating with you guys.
It's been several months since we talked to him, but we talked to him initially.
Thank you.
I'm excited to finally get that fiber.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. By the end of the year,
Thank you. Business people are very happy.
Yeah, too good to be true. Good afternoon.
Hi, dear.
Mayor and councilors, thank you for having me here. I just wanted to give a real quick update on what we're doing over at the Chamber, at the visitor centers, both of those. We do operate both visitor centers, the one there at the Chamber as well as the Billy the Kid Visitor Center. The one at the Chamber, our major update this year is we put in the new electronic marquee. So the old one was donated by the Little Bear Forest Reform Coalition, and it quit working completely. So we did purchase that through the Chamber. So it was about a $35,000 marquee, but it's working great, and we're really happy to have that up there. The Billy the Kid Visitor Center, it's going good. Although earlier this year I was starting to think we were cursed. We had the porch outside was falling in, so we had to get that completed, and it seemed like as soon as that was completed, we lost part of the roof in one of our windstorms. So luckily, it just blew off and landed at the back of the visitor center, so we did not, have any other damage. And then Tim Roberts had done a lot of updates there in the Billy the Kid, updating a lot of the old information that was there. A lot of what he did was the electronic digital TVs and stuff. And we do have a couple TVs that aren't working. I think they need to be replaced. I think one of the TVs was shorted out in one of the windstorms, that we had some electrical problems.
We
So
know
we need
where-
to,
I bet, yeah, we have a few that were misordered.
yeah, so we need to look at and see. We had somebody, the IT person come in from the village, and he didn't have any luck getting those fixed.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think
need-
T-Bone and Andrew were there to try to assist with that.
Yeah, and I do want to thank T-Bone for fixing our flagpole out there.
Putting a new flag on it?
Well, we had the flags, but apparently they would put the flags up, and by the end of the day, they were half-mast.
Wow.
So they wouldn't stay up. So, I don't know, I think T-Bone fixed it. I don't know what was wrong with it.
You mean the employee of the quarter?
Yes, T-Bone.
You rigged it? Yeah.
He does it all. And then there at the chamber, well, if you want to go to the last page of the year packet, I do have the stats for the year. And if you look, of course, summer's our busiest month at our busiest time of the year for both of them with, it'll pick up during spring break. Out at Billy the Kid, it did drop during January and February, and that was when we were doing a lot of the construction. People would come in and see the construction going on and then just turn around and drive back out. And over the year for Billy the Kid, we had a total of 9,195 walk-ins. And if you look at the italicized below, I just put the three states that we get the most people from are Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. And of that 9,000, we had over 6,000 were from those three states.
It never ceases to amaze me that Billy the Kid gets more.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of people, as they're coming in, they see it, they stop to use the restroom.
well, don't say that too loud or Bill will get real upset at you.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
It's the first place to go.
And now that the Hubbard Museum is not
Closed,
open,
yeah.
we do get a lot of people that try to go to Hubbard and then come across the street and say,
What's up?
what's up? So
Yeah.
we answer that question multiple times.
What do you say? It's closed?
It's closed for the foreseeable future, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen to.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Mm-hmm. You might as well. Oh, goodness.
But we do also, some of the things we do is at, the Billy the Kid is more of a mini museum, so people come in there, they read everything. We've got the whole scenic byway information there. For our visitor center, we do a lot more fulfillment, so we get phone calls. We send out visitor packets when people call in and want information, and that'll have the visitor guide in there, a calendar of events, and then some of the rack cards like Flying J and just things for people to do when they come. And then we do the bulk mail outs, which are the addresses we get from Team Tourism, and those we send a pocket guide to. So that's just a number 10 envelope. It's regular postage. It's not quite as expensive as the visitor packouts, our visitor packets. We also do convention center bags. So like Tattoo Festival, we did 80 bags for the tattoo artists that were here. So any of the people that are here as a vendor, they would get a information packet. And then we do this visitor guides, what you see here, those are boxes of visitor guides. So we store visitor guides. Any of the businesses around Ruidoso, Lincoln County, they always know they can come to us to get boxes of visitor guides. So we send or hand out quite a few of those every month.
How many packets or?
It used to be,
guides are in a box?
last year, I think it was 68 per box, but this year the boxes are a lot bigger and it's over 100, so they're a lot heavier this year. But total, other than the visitor guide boxes that we give out, I added up all the numbers. We gave information to over 20,000 people last year, and that's through walk-ins, through phone calls, through mailing out stuff. So we've been pretty busy. Also there at the Chamber, we do have Art Festival coming up. That's the July 21st through the 23rd. We're pretty much have all the artists are all ready to come. We'll have over 100 artists, and most of them are from the Southwest, but we do get artists from all over the country that come, and a lot of them have their own following that come here with them. We are doing something, I think is kind of exciting, but we're doing our first actual streaming advertisement over NBC Universal. So, and we did it mainly in Lubbock and Midland area, because that we could only afford one market area, so we went over there. And it's on their streaming channel, so Peacock, Telemundo, Universal Streaming. If somebody's watching TV through their computer or through their smart TV and they fit our demographics, they will see our commercial, so. And it's a non-skippable commercial, so they have to see it.
That's how you do that.
Yeah, so we're kind of excited about that. We also put an ad in the Spotlight El Paso News, so we've never done that before, but that's a digital that, and then it comes out, it's kind of like, I don't know, the Thrifty Nickel used to be, it's just a newspaper that, not really that's, El Paso newspaper, but it's one that will go to the homes. And so we'll have one ad that'll come out this Saturday in the one that goes to the homes, and then we did streaming over a 3-week period. So kind of excited about that too. We were not able to get our event banner up over the street. Next year, we will be contacting the village on January 2nd to get our permit in first, so we can get that banner up.
Oh, somebody else has that. Oh, boy.
It's the No-Gal Mesa. Ranchman's Camp beat us to the punch, but.
No-Gal what?
No-Gal Mesa Ranchman's Camp. It's a Bible camp that they do out there, Christian.
So send them a letter that the permit opens up February 1st.
Yeah. We could do that. Samantha. And then Festival of Lights is the parade's Saturday, October 7th. Our Aspen Fest is October 7th. Festival of Lights will be December 2nd. So we'll be working on those as soon as Art Fest is over. Lincoln County Day in Santa Fe. I don't have that booked yet, but it's usually the first Wednesday in February. And I do feel like that's one of the most important things we do for the community. I know everybody loves the parades, and the Art Fest brings a lot of people in, but this gives Ruidoso and Lincoln County a chance to go up to the legislature and talk to our legislators one-on-one and, really make their concerns known. Otherwise, they kind of forget that we're here. So we will be doing that.
And I do talk to other folks that aren't real involved in the community. They go to all the functions, but they always find out about this late.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's a way we could advertise, just to get it out in the public more. It's the problem that we have on everything, but.
I know, I would love to have a newspaper, but maybe we can get it in the Insider several months in a row.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah. And then Vines in the Pines is we're doing it every year on President's Day weekend. Last year, we had a fantastic turnout, so we're hoping for an even better one this year. I have a wonderful young woman that's working for me. Her name is Andrea, and she's doing a fantastic job with the events, and she's just great, so I'm really thrilled to have her with me. And then our annual banquet, we just had our annual banquet June 9th. Every year we do our awards. This year, Business of the Year, we gave out 2. One was to the Ruidoso Downs Racetrack for all of their improvements they've been doing over the year, as well as hosting the interagency firefighters during the McBride fire and kind of letting them take over their facility for that short time. And then our other Business of the Year was Downshift Brewing. We just think they're doing a fantastic job. They're bringing events to Midtown. They're really, increasing the energy in Midtown, and now with their new Riverside location, we're really excited for them. They're doing a great job.
Really nice.
Yeah. Volunteer of the Year was the Community Foundation of Lincoln County, again, for everything they've done for the community, but more specifically during the McBride fire and how much that took of their time and energy for that. And then Beautification Award went to ENMU Ruidoso just for every,
Beautiful.
yeah, it looks great over there, so. They will be having their open house on July 31st, so I don't know if you received an invitation, but you should be receiving one, but they will, July 31st at 4, I think,
Yep.
if you're available.
Just got mine today.
There you
so
go,
there it
yeah.
is.
And then our next year's banquet, we've already got that scheduled, June 28th out at Inn of the Mountain Gods. And then, again, we're still doing our Chamber Chat radio show on KRUI 1490, The Mountain.
There you go.
So anytime anybody wants to come talk with us, we're always welcome. We love, we're not having to search for people so hard anymore. We're getting
That's
a lot of
good.
people to come to us, so we're enjoying doing that as well. And I think it brings value to our members.
Definitely. And the banquet was very nice.
Thank you. I think it turned out really well, yeah.
Yeah, it
We had a
did.
lot of fun. Anybody?
Stats you gave, do you know off the top of your head how they compare to the previous year? Up, down?
Well, let's see, we were closed until probably March-ish of 2021. So I don't know. That would have been, I'd have to look and see.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Does it seem like the volume's picking up, or is it staying stable?
I think it's pretty stable. We have noticed we don't get quite as many people calling looking for availability. You know, it used to be constant. But now I think with the Airbnbs and people able to get online and look at those schedules, we don't get quite as many calls. But we're still doing the availability list for the big weekends, and I know we were pretty booked up over the 4th of July. I know all of the RV parks are always booked up for the big weekends, and most of the cabins and condos were full. It's just the hotels still had some availability. But,
Okay, I was just curious.
yeah. And on those numbers, I was surprised. I thought the numbers out at Billy the Kid would be a lot higher for Mexico, but they really weren't. We only had, I think, about 200 people from Mexico that stopped at the Billy the Kid last year. So I don't know if that's because a lot of them don't speak English, so they don't want to go to a museum or what, but we just don't get them out there like I thought we would.
Very good.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Well, you got
Good
it.
job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I'm going to have Adam, Ashley, and I know Christella's online, and they can see us, we just can't see them. Update on the revised lead and copper rule. Thank you, Ashley and Adam and Christella.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. So we just wanted to give an update on the revised lead and copper rule that the EPA released. They signed the final rule to extend the effective date on December 16th of 2021. So this is when the new regulations came down to us. During this time, EPA has released guidance for developing and maintaining a service line inventory, and this was done on August 4th of 2022. However, they did set a deadline for all municipalities, our public water systems, to comply with this new lead and copper rule. So we have to submit an initial inventory by October 16th of 2024. So we have a little over a year to get this done. So I'll let Adam take over.
So with this lead and copper rule, what they're asking for is every service line that the village owns and every service line that the property owner owns, we have to survey. Now, the first lead and copper rule came out in 1986, so anything previous to 1986, a house that was built, potentially had lead in it. After 86, they outlawed the lead. So working with Samantha, she actually got the county records and ended up with I think it was right at 2,300 homes built after, or either placed or built after 1986. So that puts us that one step closer ahead. Ashley and I have been working with, or looking on Laserfish and pulling records of all the new water line replacements and everything we've done to actually incorporate those. So hopefully it's going to help us out in doing this. And then I have my guy, we actually set up our crew members on, what is it called? It's Survey 123. So anytime they're out on a leak or in a meter can, they take a picture of the service line and document it. And
Oh, that's good.
That'll help us out also. But it's going to be a job to get all of them done.
And then what we're gonna do, is if we have any more unknowns, as his crews are out there working, we've already gone through the subdivision plats, we've gone through the county on home records, is we're gonna do a public outreach. So we have Frank Candelaria working on that. He's with Water Production. And our goal is hopefully we'll have an online survey. EPA recommends a survey form that we can do with them, where we have the homeowners taking the pictures, doing the testing. They have to verify the results. They'll put in their address, their name, and then we can also cross-compare it with the water billing records or with the county to make sure that the names are matching up, so we're not just having people put in a random address saying that they're doing.
I don't think you'll have that problem. I think you won't get any response
Yeah, so that's our
And
on that
next
one.
step. Yeah.
One of the things that we don't, we want to make sure that we're getting every household or every service line, because anyone that we miss is considered a copper line. So.
And after 30 days after our initial inventory is done, if they are listed as unknown or that they are positive for having lead in their line, we have to send them a notification and also the health regulations associated with that. And we have to continue doing this every year, sending them a letter until such line has been replaced.
And so it's up to the homeowner to replace it.
Yes. There are, just kind of digging around, there are potential funding opportunities for homeowners to replace it. But I do want to do some more research on that before we can address any funding opportunities.
This is all the lines underneath the house.
This is the line from our main line to the curb stop, and from the curb stop to the house.
Oh, okay.
Now,
So,
they may have lead lines underneath the house, but the only thing we have to survey is, or identify, is if there's lead lines from the meter can to the house.
So how does the homeowner figure that out?
there's a scratch test, and a magnet test that EPA has recommended. So if you can't tell it's PVC right away, you can do these different types of tests, and they kind of have a breakdown of how to do the test. That will,
And that's the homeowners, they have to do that.
They have, if we can identify, we have to do it. And a lot of times, we can identify what's lead and what's not. But if not, the homeowner does need to identify that.
So you're just looking at the connection on the homeowner side of the meter?
Yes.
yeah.
And you can look down and pretty much tell.
Hopefully, a lot of times, in a meter can, you have the angle stop, which we can see our line, we know what it is. But a lot of times the pigtail is actually outside the can, so it's gonna be, it's gonna be hit and miss, but we'll try to get it.
So, yeah, we're just responsible up to the house. Now, their plumbing inside the house, that's
Yeah,
on
okay.
them. But all we have to survey is, their service line to the house.
Okay.
So copper, what's wrong with copper?
It's not so much the copper, it's the solder. So pre-86,
Not sweating.
the solder, the solder was lead-based. After that, it's a silver base.
So if your house has been there since 1982, it probably has.
I think it was in 2019, the other rule came out as far as the low lead brass. So, brass was held together with a lead byproduct. So anything that's in the ground could stay in the ground as long as if it's dug up, it's got to be replaced with a low lead component.
So reading this, it says that it requires community water systems test for lead in drinking water in elementary schools and child care facilities they serve. So does that mean that if a school was built prior to this and there's galvanized or copper within the school itself, that all has to be replaced?
Yeah, we're gonna need to. So the big push for this is having kids exposed to lead, which can lead to health problems later on. And so, yes, it is gonna end up needing to be replaced. Now, I'm not sure if that's gonna be on us or if it's gonna be on the school.
It wouldn't be on us.
Yeah, it'd be on school. And, you know, we do lead testing. I mean, Randy does lead testing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're covered, but we need to identify if there's any lead, which we don't have any lead in our system, but
Is there a home lead test that you can do?
there's
You run water into it and it,
yeah, oh yeah, actually, you can buy over-the-counter tests to test for that stuff, but we do
Yeah.
testing, or they can get a lab to
And
test it.
the EPA, I was reading up on that, they're not recommending homeowners to do that. They actually want them to go do the pipe because it's the quality of our water, if it's actually even gonna leach through. And, so they're not recommending that. They actually want us to look at the pipe itself.
So are we going to send out letters to homeowners?
It depends on how much we can get done. So we wanna try to do an initial inventory first, and then the unknowns, we'll kind of start doing that
and
public
then they were talking
outreach.
about the website, you go do all that, but I don't think anybody will do it.
No, but I can see this being a big liability. We're trying to sell your property. You know, eventually it's gonna get to.
Sell your house now.
Yes, it's gonna get to be a disclosure that the realtors are gonna be wanting to know, do you have lead pipe or copper pipe in your room? And then also, this is talking about 5th liter sampling. I mean, if you're talking a big building like the Horton or a school or whatever, 5 liters is not gonna test all the water that, you know, be a fresh sample. It's still gonna be sitting there for a while. So that's gonna be interesting.
Another thing.
Just another thing, and, you know, it's nationwide.
Yeah.
It's not just us.
Sure.
Something that could
Yep.
come back and bite the village on the Horton. Just saying. Randy does the testing?
Yes.
Randy can come and test the water whenever he wants. Let's get ahead of that game.
And, you know, we've identified there's different pipes in the Horton. We know there's.
Yeah, we've abandoned a bunch.
Yeah. So,
There's some PVC, there's, just like my house, there's everything.
Okay, well, thank you
Thank you.
guys.
Right, Adam, did you want to go ahead and give just an update on that Mary Drive project that you're working on?
Oh, thank you.
sure. So, we did receive 3 bids for Mary Drive. We did have an apparent low bid, or we did have a low bid. And I reached out to that contractor and told him that he needs to mobilize within 3 weeks. So that way it gives me time to make sure I have all the pipe and everything on hand, and we'll get it done.
So they'll have sewer, they'll be able to go,
They'll have the water line. The water line will be replaced. So when this initially came about, is like they said they overmilled. So, and then some of the homeowners said, well, you know, while it's
While you're
overmilled,
here.
why don't you put some sewer in? So we went and laid the trunk line and stubbed it out to the properties. So Josh mobilized, he was gonna pave the road, and then it came out, well, why don't you guys replace the water line too? So it's kind of been a,
Yeah, this has
Okay,
been
okay.
not just us.
Okay.
And we couldn't say that, but it's a process we're working on, have been working on.
so, but they will be able to tie on to the sewer?
no, we still need to obtain possibly, I know 1, maybe 2 easements to be able to tie in the sewer. The sewer line is run down the road, it's stubbed out. Mr. Byers is willing to give us an easement through his property. But there is 2 other property owners that we will need to get easements from.
So there's a manhole there at the Mormon Church
Churches.
property, correct?
Down on Meacham, in front of the Mormon Church, there's
Yes.
a manhole there that we can tie into, but there's a property that owns a mountainside there. We need to get an easement from the Mormon Church and possibly this person here, but I think that we can cut through Mr. Byers' property.
But when we do that, then they would be able to tie on, and then we would pave their road.
Well, we'll pave the road before that.
Oh, okay,
The sewer lines are already in the road, it's
Okay.
stubbed
Yeah,
out.
it'll come down by the Mormon Church.
okay,
Hopefully, if we get that done.
okay.
So when would we potentially be able to tie into that sewer line?
Well, I'm gonna get the water line done, and then I'm gonna start working with the homeowners to get some easements and see what we can do there, and we'll get it tied in.
Get the homeowners in the area to help work on the neighbors to get the.
Yeah, exactly.
But y'all remember the milling incident?
Yeah.
Where the company went too far and it kind of boogered up the road. And then the rain season came and
I thought that had been all paved.
All except for just that little part there, because we were going to put the water lines in, and then it was a sewer line, and then it was,
Okay.
hey, hurry up and wait, and then we have other jobs we're going to, and so it's been one of those things. Just
By the end of the year, do you think?
Oh, yes, yeah, by the end of the year, it'll be paved. It'll be paved in the next month and a half. But, you know, we did put millions on the road. It was one of those things that we tried to make it the best we could. You know,
Okay, well, that's nice to know. Okay.
the water crew, or the water and sewer guys actually went and put the sewer line in themselves because we couldn't get a contractor.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
So are we going to let them know, the people on Mary know?
Yeah,
so that-
they've talked to some of them.
Okay.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I did visit with Bart Byers prior, just to let him know that we had a contractor, and we're trying to get a contractor on Service Road too. We finally did, and it's just been difficult, but we're getting all the materials and everything ready on the sewer.
It's not just that we haven't been planning, but then find somebody that can do the job,
Yeah.
that's ready to do the job, and
Yeah.
the materials, it's difficult. It's getting easier, I think.
It's getting easier, but it's not easy.
Okay? next.
All righty, next we have Eric and Chief K. Eric Queller. And Eric was providing us some updates, and he's been really doing a great job on over the weekend and making sure, checking the roadways and the burn scar and the river. So thank you, Eric.
Yeah, no problem. Well, first, Mayor, Council, thank y'all for having us. Wonderful day, right? Like the rain. Hopefully we can get out of the fire restrictions and back to normal operations. But first, we have the hazard mitigation, but beforehand, I wanted to just give a couple of updates on the siren system as well as iPause, the thing that I've been kind of screaming since I got here about. We finally got approved, and so bureaucracy at work at the federal level has come through, and all of our Ts are crossed and our Is are audited.
Your DIs are audited?
Excuse me, yes.
Was that a faux pas?
Yes.
Actually, you wanted to, that's the first time I've heard that one.
Yes, put that on Twitter. Anyway, so with that, the only thing now is FEMA is sending our launch codes, which gives us the power to send those emergency alerts.
Remind us what that does again.
And so what iPause is it is a opt-out system. It's different than our opt-in system that we currently use right now, which is we go to the public, we beg and plead with them to sign up for Call Me Ruidoso. This system is like an Amber Alert. So it gives all those phones in a geographical area when we send that emergency alert to get that emergency alert. And so with us being a very active town with a bunch of folks from far and wide coming to us that are not opted into our system, they will get those emergency alerts. And so that's just part of our emergency notification system. It's just one key in the big scheme of things for notifying the public. And so that's with iPause. So hopefully come August 1st, we will test that system for the very first time here in the village. And so going forward, hopefully we'll never have to use it, but it is in our back pocket if we do have to use it. The other part of the emergency notification system is the sirens. Last Friday, me, Chief, as well as Adam, Public Works, and some of our fire captains, we went out and surveyed the outdoor warning system, which is our sirens, and identified where these new sirens that came in for the past budget, where those sirens need to be going up. And so currently we have 11 sirens. Ideally 10 right now because the Upper Canyon one is not working. That's part of the process is we've identified those 3 sirens, and Upper Canyon's one of them, as well as a pump station on the backside of Camelot, and then Gavilan Canyon and Hole Road where that water tank is. Those are where we're going to put the new sirens. So 2 new siren locations, one updated at the end of Upper Canyon and that pump station. And so that's the outdoor warning system. We're looking at purchasing 3 more sirens this next coming budget, or this budget rather. And so getting those, again, more identified, seeing if we need to switch them out or identify those new locations. Again, it's all part of the network of alerting our community that there is something going on. Tune into the radio station, seek further information. And so that's the warning piece. The primary thing, what you asked me to come up here and speak about, was the hazard mitigation plan. And honestly, this has been probably one of the seamless processes with updating this hazard mitigation plan. I'm really liking the work from SWCA, working with Wendy Blackwell. She's done a really good job with coordinating and such, and we have had an amazing turnout with our community members. We had a public meeting a few weeks ago. We had a very good turnout with the public. There was standing room only. And so we had a bunch of feedback of what needs to be in that plan from the public. And then we also had a survey that was sent out post public meeting. It was open for a few weeks, and we actually got 10 responses from the public survey. And so we're still going through that, seeing how we can incorporate that into the hazard mitigation plan. But with the hazard mitigation plan, what is that? The hazard mitigation plan is a plan that helps us identify our natural hazards and which ones are we more susceptible to. And so working with the county, all the other jurisdictions in the county, to identify what their risks are, what our risks are, and how can we mitigate those efforts. Those catastrophe, those disasters, what efforts do we need to do rather to help mitigate those stuff. And so the plan, again, is coming together. It's 265 pages. It is a very lengthy document, but again, really good feedback from the public, and we're definitely making our way through the edits and getting that working to get finalized. So with that, those are my updates. Chief, do you have anything?
So who else, once you get that plan done, who does it go to?
So with the plan, once that gets finalized, again, this is a county document.
Right.
We're just a little seed in the whole scheme of things. And so when that gets through and approved by the planning team, that then goes before y'all as well as the public, just to review, just to see what's happening, how is that going to impact us. But ultimately, this document really doesn't tie us down to anything. However, it does give us the opportunities to look for further funding.
About where like but like where a EOC should be and things like that?
So you're thinking of an emergency operations plan. And
Okay, this has nothing to do with this.
No, sir. And so hazard mitigation is opening up that funding. So what is our highest risk? For the most part, it's wildfire and flooding. So it takes all those numbers, all those data of how many fires have we had, how large have they been, how hot have they been, how many houses did we lose during floods, all of that stuff. It then goes back and gives us those, we've identified these hazards, this is how we need to mitigate those hazards.
Okay.
An emergency operations plan, which is also in the packet, that's your 23 functional annexes and your basic plan, and that talks about how we are going to operate as a village during a time of crisis. And so how to send out emergency notifications, how to work.
But does that include the whole county? That's the point I'm trying to
No, the emergency operation plan does not, the hazard mitigation plan does.
Okay, well, that's what I'd ask first, because like the fire over here was in the county, but the territory it was coming towards was the village.
Yes, sir.
And we weren't notified, and it was hard to get information if y'all hadn't been sitting right there. So that's the hazard mitigation plan that talks about that.
We deal with all the wildfires in the entire county, yes, sir.
Okay, well then where does it tie into notification?
The notifications, we'd have to work with the county, Joe Kenmore, with their.
And is that in the EOC or is that in the hazard mitigation plan?
That'd be in the.
On levels, channels of communication?
That would be more in the, we could use that as part of the annex in the emergency operation plan to get.
Because none of these things work unless you get the
Right.
call, and that was what the point we were talking about was we were getting calls, everybody could see and smell the smoke, but it wasn't in the village.
Yes, sir.
So we wanted to make sure that there's a line of communication that makes sure that comes out.
And
So that comes
Eric-
through their PIO.
Yes, sir, PIO, and we're actually, I know, Ira Pearson, the county
Mhm.
manager, is looking at trying to get a hold of.
Okay.
Kerry Gladden to do some contracting.
That's what I was wondering, if it's in the hazard mitigation plan that we addressed all this with all the players since you had a standing room only, if that was even brought up.
I don't think that was brought up, that was before that fire occurred, but, just
Okay.
communications, we're working with Joe Kenmore on everything, trying to get a little better communications up. And, Eric has drawn up a, outline of, the Ready, Set, Go program. On when we put something out, how close to the village limits of fire is, that we'll put something out on the emergency notification system. So we've got that in the process of getting drawn up, so we can get that to you for approval, as well as.
I mean, even, greater than that, what the ETZ was, 3 miles back in the day.
Right.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I've reached out to Ira. We're going to get, when he gets back, he's on vacation, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to include our PIO. And we want to do some sort of agreement where all the information will go to Carrie, and then she'll put all the information out.
Okay. Yeah.
What I was gonna say, Mayor, was, I could only think of 3 of the hazards that we listed, but there was one new one, and I thought it was communication. I remember 7 on that list.
The hazard mitigation deals with, natural hazards.
Right,
It's
the fire,
flooding, wind,
snow.
storms.
Oh, wind, that's right,
Wind was one of the newest ones that we added, was the wind storms.
Okay. And then I remember snow. There were 7 listed, and I'm trying to think.
Dam failure is one.
Dam
of them.
failure.
Dam failure, that was the new one, right? That's right, okay.
And so with, again, we're still working out, trying to get the hazard mitigation plan and then updating that emergency operations plan. But the biggest key that I want y'all to take away with is the hazard mitigation plan is with the county, and that just deals with funding and identifying our hazards. The emergency operations plan is how do we play with ourselves, with working with, Public Works, with fire department, with police department, with the council members, all of those pieces coming together during a time of crisis.
Mr. Mayor, Eric, I wouldn't discount the hospital either, because they just recently had to undergo this as part of their joint commission requirements. Many of the things that you talked about are all in the report that Brad Treptow has. And rather than, what I'm trying to do is avoid 3 silos, the county, the village, the hospital. It all works together. And we certainly learned that the hard way with a little bit of fun. So
Yeah.
you may want to reach out to them and contact Brad and find out, because they've done an assessment of those 7 areas and given them point values and all of that.
Yes, sir. And the approval process on the hazard mitigation plan, that goes to the state, and then the state, once they say everything looks good, then it goes to the feds, to FEMA, and once they approve it, we bring it back to y'all for a final approval
Okay.
and publication.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna talk about one more thing, is our fire danger that we're in right now. I've spoke with J.W. McCoy this morning, and they are rescinding their restrictions. There's stage 1 to allow campfires out in the forest as of tomorrow morning.
Wow.
So I am planning on getting everything drawn up for ours and lifting ours from a level 2 down to level 1 on Friday morning. That's what.
This coming Friday.
Yes, 8 o'clock Friday morning, we'll go back down to level 1 fire restrictions, because the moisture we had, we have the humidity's good, the burn index, there's a whole list of stuff that we've looked at, and I'm working with JW and the county, and everything's looking pretty good right now.
Awesome.
We can use our grill again.
Hmm?
We can use our
Grill again.
Yes. So
Excellent, that's good news.
Want to call Lee up?
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Crawford, stand up. This is my grandson right here, he coming in. This
All
is-
right, Crawford.
Crawford, we have heard about you so much. Grandfather has talked about us a lot.
And this one I told you about, so you just. So anyway, glad you're here. Well, we don't need to stop the show. You can see the names. And, hello, Lee.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council.
Hi.
How are y'all today?
We're good.
All right, I visited with the contractor, with the,
Mesa Verde, the airport,
Lowell
Lowell.
Armstrong, he's the.
Armstrong.
he's the
Oh,
project manager from
Project
Armstrong.
manager.
Okay,
Visit with him this afternoon before I come in. So they'll be done with the first lift, the first panel on the runway Thursday, and then they will start on the second lift, the second panel. And when they start on the second one, they will start milling taxiway Bravo. So after they finish the second lift on the runway, then they'll come around and do the only lift on the taxiway and have.
what does a lift mean exactly?
So the runway will be done in two lifts. The first lift is the first 2 inches of asphalt, and then they'll come back after that cures, and they'll put on what they call another lift, the second 2 inches
Basically different layers.
of asphalt on.
They don't mill anything off. This is just putting on top of what's existing, right?
Well, they've already done the mill,
Okay,
and they've got the
Okay.
base course, so they come in, they put a course of asphalt,
right.
like 2 inches, and then after it cures, then they'll come in and they'll put on another course of
Okay.
asphalt on top of that.
So to answer your question, they did mill every bit of asphalt off the runways, and they will take it off the taxiway. It's a complete reconstruction.
Okay.
So they went down 4 inches.
They went down more than 4 inches.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Base
it's
course, and then they'll bring it back up to level.
Yes, sir.
pretty thick.
They look like they're on time.
They're doing pretty good on time, yes, yes, sir.
They've
Rain.
mentioned they wanted an extension. It hadn't been approved yet.
No, Mayor, members of the council, we haven't heard anything back from Armstrong or from Mesa Verde on the, asking for a time extension, so.
We're still looking sometime towards the end of July. I know they asked for a couple extra days.
Weeks, a couple of weeks, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks, so.
Well, they got 2 days because they wanted to take off for July 4th after they really humped it to get open.
Yes, sir.
And then they had requested an extension of 45 days, was it, or 70? It was a bunch. And we haven't responded.
We haven't approved that, but it
Okay.
looks like, unless the rain comes in and messes them up, they should be doing really good on the time frame.
Okay, that's great. Good news.
Does this impact the operations of the airport?
What this is doing right now, the airport's open, the 0624, the main runway and taxiway are open. So the 1230, the rest of the construction won't affect any of the operations of the airport. They just can't land on those that one runway. Yeah, they still have one runway open. We've got slammed, we've been being slammed out at the airport. They've been busy selling fuel, airplanes coming in. We've had really good turnout since we've opened back up, so it's not really affecting it. If there's some high winds, then some of the smaller planes may not be able to come in, but most of the jets and stuff are good even in winds because of the location of the runways.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Welcome to Ruidoso.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome, Lee.
Thank you very much.
Glad you're here. Can we take a break?
Glad to be here.
I need to go find munchies and coffee.
I don't know if there's any munchies.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I'll stand for any questions on the remaining of the, on the manager's report.
Any other questions? No, I think that's good.
Okay.
So if we can take like a 5-minute break?
Perfect, and we're going to reboot the computer there.
What did he say?
Going to reboot the computer.
No, what was he hollering about?
Oh, I don't know.
Heard somebody. Stretch your legs.